No.
is actually worse this way because this
Yeah.
my people's.
Mhm.
So it don't have to be nothing. It don't have to be
Right.
about no money. You know what I'm saying? It don't have to be about that.
I'm
Yo,
not struggling here.
right.
This is my reaction.
This is gonna be my reaction. Facts. Yo, what's crazy is on one of my tabs, right?
Mm,
My new guilty pleasure,
mm.
the live beach cam.
That's funny. I knew it. I knew it. I
Yo.
knew it. Yo,
Yo.
really, listen. It is a burden
It is.
being right
Yo, I hate you.
so often.
I hate
Legitimately.
the
I'm not even
concept of you, yo.
yo,
Like,
not
I
even
hate that you're a thing, yo.
on some wacky shit. Because we've had this conversation with the people before.
That's true. That's
Right.
true.
But yo, I do in personal college. Like
yo, I hate this nigga.
no, like
Well, I hate this nigga.
it's annoying. Like not in this instance, obviously, because this is harmless, but like there are situations where like I'll just know that this is about to turn out poorly. And I'll even try to alert whoever it is in the situation on why this is not about and how badly this is going to fail. And they disregard me. And then the shit happens. And it's like, now they're surprised.
You know what's funny about that though?
Mm.
It reminds me of a lot of my Facebook memory shits popping up about certain about politics and shit. Like, yo, this is not, or societal shit. Like this is not. It's not going to do what y'all think it's going to do.
It's not going to end well.
It's not going to end well. But yeah, it's definitely a guilty pleasure now. And the thing is, it'll be on a tab, and I won't even really be watching it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just click back on it every so often. And as I did that, because I was looking to go to the Black Culture Geeks channel, right? As I did that, I saw some people walking across the screen. And I remember saying to myself earlier today when I went on this tab, and said, nigga, listen, when I get down there, I'm telling you, every day where I have time, I'm walking past that camera. Every day. When I have time.
It's the merch on.
With the merch on, I'm walking past that camera, yo, every day that I have time.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck that. Watch me. Watch me. It's the Blue Water Grill. I know exactly where it's at. I'm walking. They lucky it's actually on the beach and I can't drive the golf cart because I would definitely be driving the golf cart right past there like stopping. Do you like this is the shirt? Honked on. And I'm out every fucking day. Every day that I have time. Let me put that better. Every day that I have time, because I ain't gonna always have time. But and depending on where we are located at, it might be a little ride. So because I didn't realize Amber's key was as big as I thought it was. Like,
cop this merch, nigga.
That shit 25 miles.
Hey,
it's 25 Mile Island, and I actually like that. I thought it was smaller than that. I actually like the fact that it's bigger.
That's some decent space.
Yeah, that's pretty decent as shit. The other day too, I was listening to yo, I can't get that goddamn song out of my fucking head, yo.
Which one?
I know it's gonna be like this for a minute. The whole Agatha All Along remix, yo.
That's so
yo, that remix, yo. That remix is me.
Wait, Facebook has done something again.
What did they do?
I don't know, but I can't share.
Did you share the link directly from YouTube, or did you just copy the link in?
I was trying to share it from the Black Culture Geeks page.
Oh, and it's what? It's on some bullshit? It's not giving you the option, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had that problem before, yo. I've had that before.
All right, I found it. Yo. The worst thing about the constant changes that Facebook makes is they don't announce them.
Like, facts.
They'll announce them late, or this is what usually happens. Either they announce them late, or they announce them when they're in beta, and everybody's not getting them at the same time, so you might forget about it.
Right.
It's like, bruh, come on now. Tap in. Oh shit! What up, Mike?
What it is, Mike?
Tap in.
Yo, this fucking promotional post I put on there. We are live, the new Saturday morning cartoon era. Black Culture Geeks.
I'll allow it. I'll absolutely allow it. Let me go get another water.
I need to get another one, even though I still have some, but this gonna run out.
Shush. Yeah.
Look,
Yahoo!
This nigga's ass.
Leroy Jenkins.
Yo, for a second I thought you was doing an impersonation of Show Enough when you said Leroy. Leroy!
Goodness.
Listen, one of the most underrated. Hey, yo, Mike is dumb. Oh, Mike is so dumb. We got up to get some. For those of you that be listening to this, if you're listening to this, because this is the pre-show, whatever.
Yeah.
But we got up to get some water, and Mike was like, "Well, that was a quick show." Yo, let me tell you something. Show Enough is a underrated.
Thank you, Mike.
Underrated movie villain. Underrated, yo. Underrated. Like he fit everything except for, and he was a mustache twirler. He wasn't
feeling the glow though.
I mean, they probably wasn't. It was a Barry Gordy thing. But but you know what I'm saying? Like he was a mustache twirler. He wasn't one of those complicated villains that had this backstory where you sympathize with him. Nah, B, you ain't even know his backstory. You just knew he was the Shogun of Harlem, and he was a jackass. That's what you knew.
Please.
That's what you knew. You know what I'm saying? But that over the top, I'm evil for the sake of evil. Fuck your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I'll beat your ass, and I will do and say anything I want. Yo, there ain't too many that was better than Show Enough with that, yo.
Word.
Not too many at all. I did not empathize or sympathize with Show Enough at all. At the time I was rooting for Leroy. But I loved when Show Enough was on the screen. Like we just, yo, here come this nigga. Here come this nigga. That was my shit.
I bet.
That was my shit.
And all of its black exploitation glory.
Yo, yes, it was. It was. Oh my god, yo. I don't know what's worse. Well, yes, I do. Yes, I do. I take that back. I was about to say, is it bad when other people do it? Well, we do it. No, it's bad when other people do it. You know why? Because at least we'll get money for it. Like he gave a lot of people jobs with that and got money for that shit. You know?
Right.
Fuck that.
So freaking Lily. Hold on.
What is this? She's insidious.
Okay. I can't stand you.
Yo, it was Agatha all along. That's yo, I swear to you, every time something fucks up, something don't go where it's supposed to go.
No, yo.
It was Agatha all along.
Fuck this. We're not going down that road.
Yo, that interview she had with what's that motherfucker's name. I can't remember his name now.
Seth
But
Meyers.
yeah, Seth Meyers was a fairly interesting.
Yo, I love her.
Yeah, yo, she's
I love
dope, yo.
everybody in this. Well, all the principals.
Yeah, I didn't like Haywood. I don't think the actor played. He was kind of vanilla. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's kind of vanilla.
Yeah. But
he ain't feel like family. You know what I'm saying?
No, not at all.
The rest of them felt like family, yo. Like,
like Catherine Hahn is a national treasure.
Yep. Randall Park.
Yeah, along with all the rest of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm here for it. Again, though, somebody, I don't know, I can't remember if you said this.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody was saying Darcy might be getting powers.
No, I was just joking when I said that.
There was an article.
Oh, for real? Yeah, because I was, I was saying her superhero name should be Plot.
Yeah. I remember that joke. I mean, really, listen, she was the most convenient thing about the show.
Yeah.
Literally. And on top of that, she was the one that discovered that it was a TV show.
Exactly.
So
I'm just saying.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Look, she could definitely be, like, say if they even
she could be watching.
She could be the watcher. But yo, she definitely was moving like Kwa Chan Kang in Kung Fu. she moves from situation to situation,
and that's how the story progresses.
Handles it, goes about her business. What she say? Debriefing is for the weak,
right?
Nigga, I'm just saying. I do want to see a X-Files-esque type of show with her and Randall Park.
Yes.
Me and Cyrus talked about that on the Metas and Mutant show a while ago. I would love to see that because they got a great chemistry, and they basically become our eyes. They're out there. They could be our new Coulson, right? Except for it's more expanded, where they running into a lot of these new metas, new mutants.
Yeah, because realistically, between the two of them, they have all of the connections.
They do.
And all of the experience.
Yo, I would argue, Darcy's connections exceed Randall's.
Yeah.
She's really connected with the God of Thunder. The fuck?
That one.
Yeah. When he first came back to Earth, she was there when he was, you know what I'm saying? So it's like she definitely is a
she knows.
She knows. And she's now no longer an intern. She's a fucking scientist now. Full-fledged. Full on, so she's helpful. You know what I'm saying? Like, and she got guts. See how she pulled up on.
I believe you before that when she knocked the dude out.
I'm just saying.
You really you throwing hands?
She's throwing hands. She's throwing hands.
I'm with it.
She's throwing hands now. You know what I'm saying? Yo, and I listen. Let me tell you something about Monica. Right? That scene when she was in the house with Fietro. You know what I'm saying? And he started like trying to putting his little guards up. She hit him with that crisp fireman's carry. I don't care. Look, nigga, listen.
Don't like it.
Play with her. Play with her. I dare you. That fireman's carry was on point. Got up under him. Put him down.
The execution was fine, but I don't like it.
You don't like her? You want her to blast him with something? Is that what you?
Here's my issue. Here's my issue with that. What reason did he have to stop doing the speedster thing? Because he literally stopped moving super fast, and then she just took him down.
But maybe he didn't expect. Because remember, Wanda shot him, and she wasn't going at light speed or even the speed of sound. Fuck out of here.
That's true.
Fuck out of here. Just saying. And Monica is a trained military personnel.
That's true.
So, and it reminds me of something Captain America told Iron Man in the cartoon. Maybe the 5th episode. He come inside their training facility, eating the apple. Iron Man doing his little thing. He was like, "What you doing, Tony?" "Oh, fixing this tech, making my suit better, blah, 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 all talking all this shit, right?" He was like, "Son, think it's time for me and you to train. He was like, what? I know what I'm doing. He was like, oh, I've seen you do what you do. And it's clear to me one thing. You can't fight. You can't fight. He was like, there's a lot of villains out there that would disagree with you. He said, basically what I see you do is shoot shit and tackle. Tackle some. That's it. He was like,
oh my God.
Yeah, but the tackle was OP though, because he got this weight in the suit on it, and then the speed. It is OP, right? But he basically was telling him what's going to happen when your suit get disabled or something like that. You need to learn how to fight. You need to learn how to be able to do that.
Thanks.
And in the movies, it proved it, because in that last Iron Man movie,
he
put on a clinic.
Leveled up.
Yeah, he leveled up. He put on a clinic. Yo, you're gonna have to learn how to fight, yo.
As many issues as that movie had,
yes,
that part
wasn't one of them.
He infiltrated the base.
Yeah,
bruh.
Yeah. And it makes sense, right? Because you work with arguably the greatest physical combatant on that earth.
Yo, realistically, between Black Widow, Cap, you good.
Yeah. You gonna learn how to fight, yo.
There's no way around
how to fight. You gonna learn how to fight. So that's why I said, like,
I do wish that throughout the MCU we would have gotten more training montages, though.
I'm glad. You know, they say that I'm a dreamer. But I'm not the only one. Listen. I've been saying that for a while. It's the new way. It's the new way of filming a story now. Where they used to be back in the day, they would have a section of the film dedicated to the new hero learning his skills, so that when he finally got into his challenge, it was convincing. He was legitimate. Like, yo, of course he knows how to do this. We saw him go through all of that shit. Now it's like a few minutes, maybe.
But see, even if we didn't get like the becoming of a hero moment, even like, I can't remember which X-Men movie it was, but it was the beginning of one of the X-Men movies, and Wolverine, and it was oh fuck, I think it was X3. Ew. But it was the beginning where they were in the danger room and they teased the fastball special.
Yeah.
That's something.
That's at least something.
The team has been working together.
They've been training. They've been right.
In the Avengers, all we saw them do was fight and fuss.
Well, and that's the thing. Okay, so we didn't need to know that Cap can fight. Listen.
Honestly, come on.
We don't need
the opening scene, the beginning of Winter Soldier was enough.
Nigga.
You don't need it.
Nigga.
Yo, had he never put fist or foot on another person again throughout the entire time,
you still wouldn't have the question after that.
Yeah,
that's a fact. That's a fact. We know Black Widow will get big in your ass. We already saw that in Iron Man 2.
Yep.
She will beat your ass.
Facts.
You have to assume that 1,500 years in a warrior society, where they value combat and fight, Thor can fight. So we don't gotta. Hulk
doesn't need technique.
As a matter of fact, Hulk with technique is OP. Yes, that's OP. Can you imagine Hulk learning Crawl McGraw? He out there. Or Muay Thai. That's OP. That's OP. We don't need that. We know that a Hawkeye can fight. We know that he's been training. He's not.
And even if it's something that we have to assume, we assume that him and Nat have trained together.
Exactly. Now, to be clear, he is not Natalie's equal. No. I don't give a no.
There's no way.
No, not physically. Not with that. But then, no. I would say that it's really only a few people that's Nat's equal, and it's actually three of them. It's Cap, and Cap. Like Cap is above her. You know what I'm saying? It's above her. But
I'm so mad currently that it slips my mind that there's a whole Black Widow movie out there that we cannot access.
Can we
hold on. I need to see
hold, bro. Before you do that, let's start the show because that need to be. Let's start. Let's start the show. Hold on, let me get. I got a couple of things I need to still do a little share here, real fast. And because we gotta listen, Kevin, you gonna hear me on both shows. Fuck that. This the flagship show too, so it got a little further reach and shit.
Thanks.
Nah, you going. All right, I'm ready. Welcome everyone to the Black Culture Geeks podcast. This is my man SPJ. And I am Tombstone the Dead Man, and we are just a couple of geeks talking about pop culture from a black perspective. Facts indeed. Now listen, we do have, of course, our usual menagerie of fuckery stories to go over the day and all of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's the Saturday morning funnies. We are the replacement for the Saturday morning cartoon era. This is us right here. Good with that. But before we get into that, we got a grievance.
Yeah.
We have a serious grievance. Now, just a shameless promotion. I've talked about this grievance before with my co-host Super Side Guy on the Metas and Mutant show, which is also another multi-world property. That's right. It's called Podcast Networking. You'll catch on. Yeah. But this needs to be said here. In fact, this probably needs to be said everywhere I'm on because the greater chance of this being heard. Yeah. Kevin Feige, my dude, first let me give you your flowers. Because of you, Kevin Feige, because of you, I got to see some of the most epic stuff I read as a kid get legitimized in pop culture.
Yes.
I got to now be able to have conversations with people who I could not talk to about this stuff before because of what you, Marvel Studios, and Disney has done. And I was very critical of Disney appropriating Marvel at first because I didn't want to see Mickey Mouse with adamantium claws. No, right. But you didn't do that. You stayed true to it. You was true school. And even if, as a matter of fact, I count this as a plus that you didn't go page for page, panel for panel, exactly like the comic books. I'm glad you didn't do that because now it gives us something to discuss, theorize, and speculate about.
Thanks.
Which adds to the fun of it, which adds to the whole cultural relevance of this IP. You, sir, are a national treasure, nay, a global treasure.
Thanks.
And now with that aside, nigga, run me my Black Widow.
It's our movie and we want it now.
We want it now. Run me my Black Widow.
You have no idea how excited I was when I found out that Taskmaster was going to be in a movie.
Huh?
In a movie. In a movie. In a movie.
That legitimate movie.
It's out here somewhere.
It's in these streets. Let me tell you some of the eventual outcomes, the negative outcomes that has happened because this movie didn't release. So the game Marvel's Avengers came out. One of the complaints about that game, to be fair, I enjoy the game. I love the game.
Right.
Does it need more stuff? Absolutely. But so what? It's a basis there. They keep building on it and it's for free. I'm going to get it. Yeah. But one of the complaints was the villains that they start you off with fighting after you leave the main campaign story mode, Abomination, cool, and Taskmaster. And you got people running down disrespecting Taskmaster. Like, why we got this? All these other villains, the Avengers guy, and we got Taskmaster. You know why that's happening? Because of the Black Widow movie had already came out, and they would have saw what kind of a legitimate threat Tasky is. We would not be having that conversation right now.
No, sir.
But because you chose, and listen, I'll be the first one to say it isn't completely your fault. There was a pandemic. People were trying to figure out which way to go. Shit was closed down. You spent a lot of money on this movie, and you need the way to get your money back. Theaters previously had been the thing. You was already knocking out of the ballpark, $1 billion films. So I get it. You was confused. But then Warner Brothers and HBO Max
showed you the way.
You had already been very intelligent and smart with the Disney Plus shit.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is your platform outside of Netflix, outside of any other streaming service with the exception of Hulu, which you also own, that you could stream your content on and make new content and build all around the IP, especially the Marvel Studios, specifically the Marvel Studios IP. Now it's not just, oh, we get a glimpse into this universe 3 times a year, 2 times a year. No, now you can literally have context being built around characters. This is literally a farm. It reminds me of back in the day, I think they still do it now, but wrestling organizations would have farm leagues.
Yeah.
Where the guys would go, these prospects would go and learn the skill.
Yeah.
Do a little mock promotion where they learn how to do promos, how to do stories, their in-ring presence, all of that shit. That's what this became. And it was a great idea. So to not use it, now that all this shit has gone on, Kevin, what are you doing?
That's another issue.
What's that?
All right, so a little show just came to its conclusion called Wanda.
You may have heard of it.
Yeah. I think you're familiar.
I think it was like the #1 television show in the world at the time. Yeah. Something like that.
9 weeks or some shit like that.
Something like that.
Nothing crazy. So you have an issue with the fans right now. Not all the fans. And I have no way of knowing what the percentage is, but
yeah, of course.
It's usually a vocal minority when issues are abound.
Yeah.
And this particular issue, at first, I went on a roller coaster with it. At first, I was agreeing with that vocal minority. Then I went, nah. Now I've come to kind of put together what the issue was. It was kind of inevitable. But
yes, nigga.
Here's the thing. So you cast Evan Peters in this show. And he's playing a version of Quicksilver that he's not actually.
It was a twist
in the show. It's not actually Quicksilver. The problem with that is he was Quicksilver. He was the preferred version of Quicksilver. How is this related to Black Widow? Well, Black Widow was supposed to be the first piece of Phase 4.
Yep. Even though it's a prequel type situation.
Had Black Widow, WandaVision was, I believe, supposed to be like the 4th thing to come out of Phase 4.
Yep.
Had the other things come out before WandaVision, there would likely have been other hints and things leading to eventually mutants coming in.
Right.
So this Pietro thing would not have had so much focus on it because we would have already had little clues and hints that mutants were coming. But now, since this is the first thing that's coming out since that time,
right?
People were really excited about the idea of mutants coming.
They really were.
Pulled the rug right from under them. It would have worked if this wasn't the first thing we saw.
Right. It's true.
It would have been enough built up.
Yep.
Where we would be like, all right, at that point, we would have been like, all right, is this the time? All right, no, it's not the time. Okay, cool. We know it's coming though, because we got these other 2 or 3 projects that have already shown us clues and hints.
Yes, absolutely.
So, yeah. On top of that, I will reiterate this because this is most important.
Mm-hmm.
Taskmaster. Secondly, this is just my personal something that I want and have heard slight rumors on, no confirmation. So even if it's not accurate, then it is what it is. Omega Red.
Yeah.
I need to know if Omega Red is in this movie. And the only way I can find that out is if you absolutely come out and deny it, or
you release the movie. See, and this is the other thing that I got to say. Disney Plus didn't do you any favors as far as giving you an excuse, because we've seen them already release movies, premieres.
I think
you pay a little extra, right? Pay a little extra, which, trust me, none of us mind doing.
Nah.
None of us mind doing that. You pay a little extra to get access to the movie on that site. So there's a precedent you've already set. Now, I'm here to tell you right now, Wonder Woman, as crappy of a movie as Wonder Woman 2 was, they made a ton of fucking cake off of that using the same formula. Do you really believe that Nat's not going to pull that type of cake? She absolutely will.
Yeah, her first solo movie. That's what people have been wanting for the longest time.
Right.
Especially come on.
So please explain to the class why this isn't a thing. Why am I not currently on my 10th viewing of Black Widow? Why? I need explanations. I need answers. Why am I not on my 15th viewing of Black Widow? Because you know what's about to happen? We just got the final season of WandaVision. I watched all of them episodically.
Yeah.
And now I'm about to binge them. So what makes you think I wasn't going to binge Black Widow? What makes you think that once Black Widow's added to the equation, that I am not, when you put it in the chronological list, because Disney Plus does have the chronological list of events,
all the movies,
that I'm not going to wind up watching all of them again. Just give me my Widow.
Yeah, it's our Widow and we want it now.
We want it now. Run us our Black Widow. We don't want to hear the excuses. Oh, well, the theaters might be opening up soon. Do you realize that a lot of those theaters have went out of business now? They're gone. Run us our Black Widow. And look, here, anyway, as far as the pandemic is concerned, with all the fucked up shit that came from it, there are nuggets out of it that are clues to what the future is. Dude, the future ain't these theaters. It's not. It's not.
Yeah, B.
To be quite frank with you, y'all were some of the only ones that was holding the shit together.
They know that.
Come on.
They were charging them.
Yes. Why you think Marty was so salty?
Right.
Because his movies don't make money. Not anymore. Nope. So the fact is, if you take your ball and go home with it, that means you take your movies and put them on Disney Plus. That's home. That's home.
That's what it sounds like to me.
That's home.
Yeah.
And for the record, I want to add something else to what you said too about the fact that the WandaVision was first out of that gate because of circumstance created a whole different framing for this. Same thing goes with the multiverse thing. I am used to y'all throwing some shit out, teaser, and pulling it back. And then when you release it, finally, this is the shit. You did the same thing with the multiverse thing in Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
The whole 616. Mysterio's lying ass. I'm from a different, I'm from 1610. No, you wasn't. You lying sack of shit. But for those of us that knew, we know that Mysterio, just by virtue of his powers, he's a lying sack of shit. What's up, Biddy? What's up?
Hey.
We know you aligned. We knew that. So you teased it though. So then all the speculation. I seen the speculation, and some of y'all blame me. And me and Cyrus talked about this on Metas and Mutants. Some of the speculative stuff that got the audience all pumped up, I'm gonna lay the blame at the hands of vloggers.
Okay.
Because what happens is they will introduce things into the conversation that Marvel had not stated.
Facts.
And they will do whole videos on it. I've witnessed it.
Facts.
Whole videos on it, which preps the audience for a certain type of thing. And when they don't get it, Marvel never mentioned Mephisto once.
Right.
Not once. How that became a thing is because those of us that read the comic books, we know of his involvement with the children of Wanda.
Yeah.
So those people that do those vlogs, they read the comics too. They know the history of it. So they interjected the speculation into there. Marvel never mentioned him once.
Wait, two things. Also, the actors. Elizabeth did mention Mephisto.
Yes.
And Paul Bettany teased a huge cameo.
He was talking about himself.
It was a joke that he was making that he, for some reason, I have no idea how, did not realize it would go so far.
Yo, listen, you're part of the MCU. Anything you say in regards to the IP.
In an official interview, it wasn't like somebody caught him out talking. No, it was an official interview.
Yeah, it wasn't a hot mic moment.
Yeah, no.
Right.
So how do you not realize that that's going to have traction?
Come on, dog. But we've all been here for the Tom Holland experience. So we know anything you say. The Mark Ruffalo experience. We all know anything you say is going to be taken.
Yeah, everybody does. Mark!
What are you doing? What are you doing? But that's our beef. We want our Black Widow and we want it now.
That's it.
We want it now. Like right now.
Right now.
Like literally.
I expect it to be released by the time we finish recording.
Facts. Facts. I'm facts. Fuck that. Listen, in the space of time, right, between now and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, give us Widow.
Yeah, 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Give us. I can watch a movie in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I can watch them.
Watch a movie several.
You know how many times I can watch it? You know how many times I can watch that movie in 7 weeks? Yeah, give us our fucking Black Widow, Kev. I'm certain. Yo, Kev, you on stage? Give us
All right, yeah, we moving on. Yeah, your week.
Yeah, so my week has basically been somewhat frustrating. What's good, Sam? What's good? It's been somewhat frustrating because there were certain things that I'm still trying to figure out and wrap my head around how to make certain things work that I, to this point, really just, I'm gonna say in the last couple of days, figured out. These are production things. And conversations I've had with you about that and all of that. I've actually had a conversation with the principal thing about that this morning about a lot of that. So I'll talk to you about that off air.
Okay.
Also been very disappointed with the weather this week once again.
What? Hold on.
Yeah, listen.
I'm confused now.
There have been cold days, man, and I'm sitting there going, I thought we was getting past. Remember that week when we had the 50 this, 50 that, and the 50 and the 53?
It was 50s.
It was cold. The wind was blowing heavy. Not down south. Like this shit was not. No, it wasn't that. You know what I'm saying? And I've been disappointed about that sort of thing. Also, from a creativity perspective, right? Certain things that I wanted to get done this week did not, because I wasn't in the frame of mind.
Yeah.
And I don't like working on stuff when I'm not in that frame of mind because, one, I am very particular about the shit that not only that I create, but the shit that I release. I'm particular about that shit. So I had a plan that didn't really work out the way I needed it to work out. It just didn't. It didn't, right? Other than that, though, I think the high point of this week was the WandaVision series ending. That was the high point for the week for me. And we just discussed that to a degree. Here we haven't deep dived in it, but we discussed that to a degree here. Suffice it to say, We thought it was well done. Was there other things in there that we would have liked to see? Sure, but that's how all Marvel projects are for real.
Projects, period.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
There's very rarely been a project where I was like, yep.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
All of it, and only that.
Right.
Nah,
right.
Too many of those out here.
Nah. So other than that, it's been a thing. It was nothing really super special. I didn't go anywhere super special. I didn't, I basically was doing my regularly scheduled programming.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it for me. What was yours like?
Oh, okay. So those things, most of those things, same. I keep finding.
What's up, Ryan?
What's going on? Ways to, and I'm not. This is not a complaint. This is not a complaint. It's just a little bit perplexing. I just can't wrap my head around it. I keep finding ways to reinvigorate my creativity and things that I'm doing. Because, like, remember when I was like, "Yo, I can sample without sample." What the what?
Yep.
What is that? Something that I absolutely knew. I just had never put it in the right space to fully utilize it.
Right.
And now it's like, okay, this is what we're about to work on.
So you dove head first. Well, when you first said you found new ways to invigorate your creativity, the first thing that came to my mind was smoke them if you got them. Because when that shit goes away, you got
Absolutely. I also the next trip is booked.
To Memphis. It's pretty cool.
But
is this bus leaving for Memphis?
Shut up. Myrtle Beach.
Really?
So, yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Mask up.
Duh. Absolutely.
Motherfuckers is trifling.
Yo, by then, I'll have been likely vaccinated, and I'm still.
Wait a minute. Are you considered essential?
No, but I was allowed to put in I don't even know what it's called. The initial part of getting the shot or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for them to respond so I can set a appointment.
Prepare for long lines.
Oh yeah, I know.
Because people are desperate to have some sort of a summer.
Absolutely.
People are desperate for that shit. And yeah.
But along those lines, I've heard 2 questions this week. And yo, I don't belong here. I don't understand these 2 questions. And maybe you can help me. I'm baffled as to why these are questions.
Well, you know the old saying, when the student is ready, the master will appear.
Okay. The one is the one I'm least upset about. Why less people are having babies during. I'm sorry, how was it phrased? Why less people are having babies for the time period of
the pandemic situation?
Late 20. Stop. I wasn't trying to use that word because clearly that doesn't exist. Clearly not relevant. I don't know what time frame specifically we're talking about, but it was somewhere mid to late 2020 to now. Why people aren't having babies?
Why is that a question again?
I don't fucking know. But hold on.
Well, there is one answer I can give you, but I'm gonna let you continue.
There's another question, and this is the one that has me upset. That has the same answer. Why did the flu disappear? All right. So let me.
Okay, so y'all, those of you that are listening to this on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever, you didn't just see the face palm eye roll that I just did. This shit is dumb simple.
All right.
This shit is dumb simple.
Let me explain the answer that connects both of them first, and then I'll get more specific with the flu. We are in the middle, potentially towards the end. Potentially, we'll see. But we're in the middle of a global pandemic. One of the side effects of the global pandemic is that for a bunch of places, and yes, you see a bunch of examples of this not being the case. However, usually when you see dumb and bad stuff, it's usually a vocal minority.
Yeah.
You've seen that one side effect of being in this global pandemic is quote unquote lockdown or separation. So, for those who haven't gotten through sex education,
congratulations, Ron. Ron said he just had a baby. He had a baby in 2020.
Congrats. One of the, but that goes into it too. I'm gonna talk about that.
Okay.
But yeah, lockdown. So those of you who haven't gone through sex ed,
yo, that was dirty.
I'm just saying, yo.
There's a shot right there. That's
physical contact in order for babies to come about. Outside
the hell you say?
Outside of some other situations that are procedural, but a lot of procedural things that were elective were canceled during this time. So that takes care of that outlier. Right. Then again, people aren't going around other people as often as they had been doing pre-pandemic.
No, they haven't. The flu is a communicable. You know what?
So that answers both of those questions. Now let me do the baby thing again. Also, on top of that reason, the hospital situation right now isn't necessarily the best. So there are people that even if they may have been planning to have a baby, have decided to put that off because they don't want to have to deal with the weird situation at the hospital right now. So yes. Okay, so now back to the flu. All right. So on top of the fact that, again, people aren't communing as much as they were pre-pandemic, of course, there are exceptions. Absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
But in general, of course, people are not getting together as often. And even when they are together, they're not as close as they were, or they may have masks on.
Right.
The flu, this might be a shocker to some of you, is spread in much the same way that COVID-19 is spread. And pretty much everything from anybody in good faith has been trying to encourage things to stop people from contracting COVID-19. Well, if you contract the flu the same way, guess what the side effect is going to be?
Now, I know what they're thinking. People will still catch COVID. COVID is a lot more infectious than the flu is. You know what's crazy about your analysis right there, bro? None of it required for you to have a medical degree.
Not one bit of it.
None of it. Like, yo, I swear to you, some of these people refuse to switch that shit on in their heads. Mm-hmm. It's like, yo, this is what I mean by people being so consumed with conspiratorial thinking.
Yeah, yo, that's what happened. That's
You're so consumed with that shit that you turn off all other facets of your reasoning, of the way you analyze data, of the way you actually make an analysis on situations and observations. You turn that off because you're so quick. You want to jump to the conspiracy first instead of using Occam's fucking razor.
When I was hearing it at first, it wasn't the places that I was first hearing it were not places that were coming from a conspiratory slant.
Right.
At first, it was an article here, an article there, explaining why the flu has quote unquote disappeared.
Right.
Then I leave out of my house one day. It might have been yesterday.
You shouldn't have done that. That was your first mistake.
I have no choice. I got to pay that. I leave out of my house one day, and I'm walking to my car, and I walk by somebody, one of my coworkers, and I just hear him. Yeah, man, I don't know about all this stuff, man. It's like the flu just disappeared. So I don't understand why if nobody's catching the flu, this I don't know if this COVID stuff is real. How is it that a year into a whole year, a whole year, because when we really started getting in tune with it here, it was March. How is it that a year into this, you still have questions about it being real?
I'm gonna tell you why, bro. This is the issue with the internet. To be honest with you, when they talk about freedom, part of that freedom that the internet enjoys is that anybody at any time can snatch up a WordPress profile, create blogs, broadcast their ideas. Most of the people that are doing that are not qualified to be talking about the things they're talking about. They have an idea about something based off of maybe a past personal experience or the things that have been filtering in their head from other sources their entire life. And they use that to extrapolate these takes, come up to these conclusions without the benefit of any actual study on the topic itself. And they put that shit out there. Now, if that person is articulate, if that person has a great presentation, he will be convincing to a lot of other people that don't want to do the work themselves, but want to be thought of as heavy. People whose lives maybe aren't doing what they thought they should be doing at that period of time and are looking for a reason other than other things that might be more personal for why they're not succeeding. So it must be because this person did that, this group did this institution did this. And they use all of that to say that everything that comes out, no matter what it is, from anything that's considered to be an establishment source, has to be a lie. It has to be a conspiracy. It has to be a plot. It has to be a plan, because there's no way they could be in the situation they're in if not for that. It has to be that. It's much of the same thing when you see people accuse certain celebrities that got money, got famous, of being part of the Illuminati. Because there's no way, how did they get so famous? It couldn't be possibly that they put the work in. It couldn't be possibly that they had a talent that was marketable, that they was in the right place at the right time. That couldn't have been it. No, it had to be some supervillain group, the Legion of Supervillains somewhere that did this shit. It's the same thing with this, yo. It's the same fucking thing with this. And this is why a year in, people are still asking these questions, because the places they go for this sources of these information, these aren't legitimate sources, yo. Right. These aren't people that are even qualified to really have an opinion on this that you should pay attention to. You notice why I framed that shit the way I did. Because everybody has a right to have an opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody has a right to have an opinion.
Absolutely.
But they don't have the qualifications for you to be taking their opinion that seriously on these topics.
Right. Nah, B.
the shit is ugly. And let me say this too about that. You fucking chimps. Like you said, the flu has disappeared or has been less. There's lesser rates of it, mainly because people were social distancing, wearing masks. There's been a lot less interaction between large groups of people than it used to be, and that's how the flu spread.
On top of that, the thing that I didn't mention, more people are getting the flu vaccine.
More people are getting flu vaccinations also, because that was one of the things that was suggested that you do to help eliminate what, if you start getting these symptoms, what it could possibly be. Right. This is another argument that you filthy chimps over here should have been wearing masks all along. Because when you go to places like Singapore and Japan and even China, you know what you see these people doing just out of polite human behavior of being in a community? When they're sick, they cover their faces when they have to go out in public because they don't want to get anybody else sick. But you filthy diseased rhinos.
Don't disrespect rhinos like that.
You guys have decided because of your selfishness and this whole my individual freedom to act as if you're not part of a community and certain things that you do are going to affect people around you because that's not something that's taught here.
Right.
So you want to go out there and cough and sneeze and wipe your nose and not wash your fucking hands when you come out of the bathroom and then want to shake people's hands when you see them. Y'all want to do that shit. And as a result, you have turned the United States into a stinky leper colony. You did that. You did that. You did that shit.
That's what happened. That's exactly what happened.
What's up, Jonathan?
What's going on? Yeah,
you did that shit. So if anyone wants to ask the question why this country got hit so hard with it as opposed to some of these other places globally,
it's us.
It's us. It's us. It's us. It's how we were raised to think. And I don't mean necessarily by your parents. No. I mean, there's certain narratives in this country that the populace, of course, grabs onto. Basic narratives that we grab onto and assume it to be true because everybody here thinks that. Everybody here feels that way. And even when we see examples of how that can be detrimental, we don't want to change. We don't want to change.
This works for me.
This works for me. And it really doesn't. It really doesn't.
It really doesn't.
It's really disgusting. And I feel bad that you had to actually like experience that. I really do, bro. I really do.
I even have to explain it is I'm beyond anger. I am sad. It legitimately saddens me that this is the lack of logic that goes on.
Like, you know what they wound up doing? They didn't create scenarios out of whole cloth. Just because one piece of misinformation not checked, they start adding on more pieces. And then they come to these conclusions and create these scenarios that have absolutely no agency in reality. None. But they'll take that because they got this whole premise and this whole line of reasoning underneath that. And then they'll go and share it with other people who are about as critically thinking as they are. And remember we said one time before, back in the day, the village idiot was alone in his sorrows. The village idiot would walk the village, yelling at the top of his lungs, if you want to feel funky, feel free. Just don't spread none of that funk on me. They was running around doing it, and everybody laughed and said, "This nutbag." But what happens with the internet, the village idiots globally get to come together and their voices get loud as fuck. That vocal minority shit you was talking about, that's what it is. Their voices get loud as fuck in these groups, right? And now you got all of them screaming at the top of their lungs, if you want to feel funky, feel free. Just don't spread that funk on me.
And that shit is contagious.
It's contagious. It's absolutely contagious.
Because you might see something that you're not necessarily educated about that seems to potentially make some sense.
Right.
And then you get trapped.
And that's the problem with when you have just a bit of truth mixed in with falsehood.
Mm-hmm.
It's real easy for someone who hasn't been taught or conditioned to be critically thinking, where they'll say to themselves, how is this true? They won't question it. And I gotta say, if you won't question yourself and the things that you believe, I have a hard time believing that you'll question other things as long as it happens in that wheelhouse. So if it's already something that you already think is true and you never checked it, you never researched it, you never studied none of that stuff, when you hear it as a part of somebody else's fanciful tale, it seems to me you're going to be more likely to buy into it because a part of it is something that you already think, even though you haven't looked into it at all.
Yeah.
And I think people oversell the idea of their opinion. Like, I think the whole idea of the right to an opinion has been extremely overrated in this country and overinflated. Because just while you may have a right to an opinion, for other people listening to you, they need to consider your opinion in a couple of different things. They need to go, is this person qualified to speak on the shit that they're speaking on? And if they're not, I probably need to go and check to see if what they're saying has any realm of reality. And those of us on the other side that are making these claims, stop being insulted that somebody wants to check what you said.
Right.
Because them checking that claim you just made is not to insult you. It's so that you don't insult their intelligence by thinking that they're going to believe everything that come out of your goddamn mouth just because you said it and you're not qualified in that field. It's that simple. It's not personal.
No,
it's like you said that, and I know for a fact I know what you do for a living. You know what I'm saying? It ain't that. So now I got to check.
Yeah.
And I know you personally. I know that you're not usually one of the ones that's really studied in something. It's not really you. It's not you. So I need to go check this so I'm not spreading misinformation. And hey, if I find out something about that's wrong, I'll come back to you as a favor and say, bro, I looked into that. And all the sources that we would consider to be legitimate, they dispute what you're saying. So you might want to not spread that around to other people as if it's a fact. You can still say that's your take. That's what you believe, whatever. But don't run around acting like that's an established fact when it's not substantiated by anybody who, I don't know, spent 20 years working on this exact same thing while you were cutting your grass, feeding your dog, and taking your kids for trips. You weren't focused on that.
I used to terrorize my oldest godson's father, like terrorize him because he was always on some conspiracy shit. So anytime I saw it, like, yo, where you get this from?
So all you gotta do is ask him.
Just ask
him.
Where's your source?
Just ask him. That's all.
Show me your source. Sam says, has someone on my Facebook say the coronavirus was made by BLM?
Oh, geez, Louise. These people
because I didn't want to catch that stupidity sickness he was spewing.
Yo, maybe even more so than Sam. Maybe even more so than coronavirus. Stupidity is more contagious than anything else.
Yo.
Oh, this is a whole new level of stupid.
Yeah. What the fuck? You've reached a new level.
Congrats. This guy, you know what? Where Sam saw that on Facebook, that guy may have been the final boss.
Yeah, he probably was.
He probably was the final boss. Jeez, man.
Continue. Yeah, all right. So moving on. Today in history.
What's today's date?
I don't know.
Today is March the 6th.
Yeah, March the 6th.
2020.
Birthdays. Lou Costello, 1906. Ed McMahon, 1923.
He never showed up with my
I never got
house sweepstakes show.
Yeah, I never got my grandmother used to be on that. Like
so did mine.
Marion Barry, 1936.
Man for life.
D.L. Hewley, 1964. Shaquille O'Neal, 1972.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, Sheriff. Yeah, Sheriff Shaquille, 1972.
Officer O'Neal.
Hey, Sheriff Shaquille, Officer O'Neal. Couple events, 1977, An Evening with Diana Ross, aired on NBC. And 1989, Smokey Robinson's autobiography, Inside My Life, was.
Smokey has been routinely one of my favorite musicians ever. Like, Smokey Robinson.
Yeah.
It's dope.
All right. So moving on to the first topic of the day. Bruno's appropriation.
Uh-oh.
I don't know. Let's just get into it. Bruno Mars responds to cultural appropriation claims. This music comes for love, is his quote. The Bruno Mars cultural appropriation debate has been taking place over the last several years, with critics accusing the singer of using his racial ambiguity to cross into genres that are historically Black. The Grammy-winning artist addressed the claims during a recent Breakfast Club interview alongside his Silk Sonic partner, Anderson .Paak. Okay, now pause real quick. I talked about them putting out a project last week, and they released the first song. It is, listen to me clearly. I'm not talking to you, Tim. There could not have been a better name for this fucking group than Silk Sonic. When you listen to that first song, it's like all of the instruments and voices just melt together into some weird, like, it's its own entity. It flows so crazy. It's the weirdest shit. Like, I can't really. It's an experience. You have to experience it. I can't really do it justice by explaining it. You honestly, you should give it one listen. Like, I'm not asking you to listen to the whole album, but just that one song, you should give it a listen, and you'll understand what I mean. Like, sonically, it's silky.
Silk Sonic.
That wasn't even a joke. Like, that may have been, like, had I stumbled across that song and not had any clue who anybody on it was, that could have been a description that I gave it. Like,
Wowzers.
Yeah, so I'm like, yo, what the fuck are they doing? What drugs are they on?
Both of them.
Listen.
Both of them.
I wouldn't be surprised, my guy. I ain't even mad. It is what it is. So yeah, when that album comes out, I think it's supposed to come out next week. I'm not sure. When that album's come out, that's what I will be listening to for who knows how long. I kind of don't want to, because it's kind of going to probably mess up what I'm doing.
It is. It's going to mess up your vibe. It's going to screw your vibe up. And I do that to myself routinely. I do, yo. I ain't gonna bullshit. I get a certain sound in my craw, and can't get out of it. I literally have a playlist on YouTube. My sound called Soundtrack, and it has various different forms of music on there. And maybe about 4 of them is hip hop. So it takes me out of my, and I got to stop doing that shit. But go ahead. I got to stop doing that shit.
All right. People love to accuse you of being a cultural thief, which I find interesting because you are a person of color. Host Charlamagne the God said to Bruno, what would you say to those people? First, what I would like to say to you, Charlamagne.
You mean, excuse me. I have to correct you on this once again. It's charlatan the fraud.
I get it. No, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going deep dive on
I know.
I will just leave it at this. Being a person of color does not exempt you from being a cultural thief.
No, it doesn't.
It just doesn't. That's just not how that works. But anyway.
That's what I told you about that whole lumping everybody in the same.
Yeah.
See?
It's
bullshit.
that exact thing. Anyway, Bruno explained that he has always given credit to the funk, R&B, and pop artists who came before him, and insisted there was nothing but love behind his material. As a fan of Bruno Mars, I can attest.
Because I saw a portion of this interview, and well, I'm gonna let you finish, but I had a take on that.
Oh, okay.
That most people wouldn't probably expect. But
I can say to you, yes. Okay. In numerous interviews, I have seen him give it up. So he says, I would say you can't look at an interview. You can't find an interview where I'm not talking about the entertainers they've come before me. Mm-hmm. And the only reason why I'm here is because of James Brown. It's because of Prince, Michael Jackson. That's the only reason why I'm here. Bruno said, I'm growing up as a kid watching Bobby Brown and saying, okay, if that's what it takes to make it, then I've got to learn how to do the Running Man. I've got to learn how to do the moonwalk. That's it. And this music comes from love. And if you can't hear that, then I don't know what to tell you. He went on to say that he wears his inspiration on his sleeve and hopes future artists will also take cues from his work. What is the point if us as musicians can't learn from the guys that have come before us? What did they do? He said before Charlemagne asked if the criticism made him upset. It comes with the gig. And there's real merit to what people are saying about Black entertainers not getting their flowers. And I'm championing with that. I'm with that. I understand. But it's just Twitter. The sit-down took place just hours after Bruno and Pac released Leave the Door Open, the first track from their newly formed band, Silk Sonic.
Now, I've had a lot of time to talk about music, talk about the political aspects of it, to talk about its influence on society. Mm-hmm. I've done songs about that in the past. Mm-hmm. I've had time to think about this. And when I heard his that portion of the interview, I could not personally find anything that I disagree with what he's saying. I think what's happening and what's been happening, and it's probably something I've done too, people are placing the blame in the wrong area.
It happens.
Artists, and I'm speaking of my experience of being one for 38 plus years.
Right.
Artists are always inspired by other artists that came before them.
Without question.
It does, and this is cross genres. Mm-hmm. And a little bit of what those other artists that came before them do does seep into their material, especially early on. Yeah. Now, after a while,
they develop their own
kind of sound. But even with that, you can find trace elements of the genetics from where that music and that inspiration came from. Yeah. These artists grew up listening to all of these other artists. Yeah. And they wanted to do it. And they may have had a talent, or they curated a talent. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And when they start doing it, they start pulling from their influences like every single artist does. The blame shit, I think the blame going towards the artist is bullshit. That's not where, to me, the appropriation comes from.
In specific situations, it's egregious.
Right.
But when it's not, yes.
It actually comes from the industry. Yeah. And how they choose to market and who they choose to market. Because here's the thing. You could have a demo and they like the music that's on it, but they don't like you. They don't like how you look. They don't think you have the look for it. Unfortunately, one particular phenotype has been favored over others for a long ass time.
Yeah.
A long ass time. This seeps into business too. So if they see somebody else that has marginal talent, maybe a good song, and has the look they want, because it's a business to them, they're not thinking about the art of it. They're thinking about, I can market and sell this guy. I can put his face on a t-shirt. I can put his face on a poster. And the vast majority of the audience are going to subconsciously resonate with that because he looks like them. Yeah. And they're going to dig in their pockets and spend money or play his shit or go buy a ticket to his live show. That's not the artist's fault, because all that artist want to do when he was a kid, since he was a kid, was sing, rap, dance. That's all they wanted to do. And they wanted to mimic the people they looked up to.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
That's it.
So if we want to have this conversation, let's really have it and point it towards the people that are making the executive decisions on who to push, who to market, because they're only doing this for their own benefits because they get paid before the artists get paid, and they get paid more than the artist gets paid. If they're predatory when it comes to the artists, what make you think they're not predatory when it comes to people's cultures and giving people the credit that they deserve?
Oh yeah,
an artist is an artist. They're trying to get their life. So I think a lot of the times the blame goes in the wrong direction with that. Like most artists that I know, I've worked with plenty of artists, and I've been an artist for decades. You're going to be inspired by the people that came before you. It's that simple. It's that simple.
Even if you try to avoid it,
right?
You can't avoid that,
right?
So, all right. More specifically with Bruno, right? I think one of the issues is I hate this. I absolutely hate what I'm about to say. Not because I don't believe it, but because
it's a thing.
I try to avoid anything that knocks down a decent sized group of us.
I know what you're saying.
It seems to be a thing, and it could be a vocal minority thing, absolutely, where we are over possessive of certain things, and obviously it's rooted in a legitimate reason. I get that.
Motherfuckers getting generational wealth off our shit. right.
Taking shit from us. And so obviously we're going to build up some type of callous, and the callous in this case sometimes ends up being us being overprotective.
And us pointing at the wrong artist. I don't give a fuck.
Here's the thing.
With Bruno specifically,
he is, I'm glad that the article used this term. He
racially
is
ambiguous.
Bruno Mars comes from Puerto Rican, Jewish, Filipino, Hawaiian, and Spanish ancestry.
Yeah. So here's my question about that. If you go and get your cheek swabbed, you know what you're gonna find?
When
I did that, there's Irish. I am not so sure that when people throw all of these things at you, my dude, you had a mom and a dad. What were they?
But no, here's the thing.
Do you really need to go all the way back to? I got 15 different.
That's the crazy thing. He's not. His father is half Puerto Rican, half Jewish.
Okay.
His mother immigrated from the Philippines to Hawaii. So she was Filipina, but she has Spanish ancestry.
Which Spanish?
It just says Spanish.
Because I was wondering if is it South American Spanish or is it European?
No, Spanish. Not Hispanic, Spanish.
Spain, then.
Yeah. So Europe. She and the Jewish child is Europe, Ukraine and Hungary.
Yep.
But also Puerto Rican and Filipino. So it's like, let's not remind you guys that freaking hip hop came from Black people, Hispanic people, Jamaican people.
Yep.
So here's the thing. I'm with all the smoke. had Bruno done something publicly that
worthy
made it
of the smoke,
like,
right?
Yeah,
right.
I have not seen a thing, and if anybody is listening out here and they have seen it, send it our way. I have not seen a single instance where he seemed like he was on some culture vulture shit.
Right.
I just haven't seen it.
And this is why I think the blame is really it's not going towards, because the main part of the argument is erasure. That's the main part of it, right? But to me, erasure would mean he gets up there, he does all of this different, he tiptoes in different genres, and then never credits the people which inspired him, which he got. If he never says, if he never mentions James Brown, if he never mentions Michael Jackson, if he never mentions Prince. All right, I can see you going, yo, you acting like this some shit that, nah, it's not that. But he has, right? So you know where his inspiration is. So he's not erasing the culture that produced the inspiration that he uses to make his music. I'm gonna say this again. He's an artist. You have, I don't think most of you really know the wide array of music I listen to other than hip hop. It's not all it's not all like African inspired, or it's not all that. There are old Gaelic tunes that I've heard. I'm like, I'll fuck with that. And then we'll save it somewhere and listen to it every now and then. They have no drums, absolutely no drums in it. No drums at all, right? He's an artist. So if he's not going around acting like this is some shit that
he created
the whole cloth out of himself, if he's saying who he got inspired by, I really think a lot of this blame is not going to the right places. These companies, these fucking companies are deciding who they push.
He wrote a song for the OJs. The OJs. Listen, I get he wrote a song for Charlie Wilson. Like this, it's like
I did not know that, Marissa. Marissa says Spain occupied the Philippines for decades, which is why Spanish names are prevalent among Filipinos to this day.
There's the connection.
There it is.
There's the connection.
There it is.
Yeah, it's just like
Sam. I like Ace of Base.
He does a lot of work. He does a lot of work with a lot of different people of all different genres, and he seems like he just want to be out here.
He just want to do music. He just want to do music. That's what I'm saying. That's why, to me, when they bring up whatever racial ambiguity he has, I think that's besides the point.
Yeah,
I think that's besides the point, because at the end of the day, he's still a person. He's an artist who listened to the music when he was a kid. Was like, I want to do that.
Yeah,
same shit I did. I want to do that. Yo, fun fact. Before rap, I wanted a rock band. Before I was rapping, I wanted a rock band. When you're an artist, you hear some music you like. Damn, I would like to do shit like that.
Facts.
Damn, I would like to do shit like that. I think if you really want to dig into all of the reasons why people get erased, cultures get erased after their influence is clearly a part of this money-making machine, you gotta go to the corporation. Because they're making a lot of the, and if you see the artist constantly collaborating with people that come from the culture that spawned the music, I don't know if you can point them out and say they're the ones trying to erase where that music comes from. I don't think so. And I'm saying this is
easily. All right, here's the thing. There's a certain point in an artist's career where there's an argument against what you just said.
Right.
Where the argument is, no, he needs them.
Right.
Bruno fucking Mars. There's not many people. This is feel how you feel about the NFL, right? But we're not going to deny the cultural phenomenon that is the Super Bowl halftime.
Yeah, it's a cultural thing.
He is one of few people who have been on that stage more than once.
Right.
He is not some struggling, aspiring artist. No, he is established.
Yo, I'm not a fan, and I know who he is. So he's not some obscure.
Right.
He's not like
with all this fame. All right, prime example. Dr. Dre and Kanye West. They are
here
producers who do the session musician thing a lot, right?
They do.
This has really come to light in recent years. The thing about it is that is how you could, and I'm not saying that they are doing this.
I know what you're saying.
But that is how you could get that sound you need and still be the spotlight of the situation.
Without
what Bruno is doing.
Sharing the spotlight with other people. Right.
He could have these people that are parts of these cultures singing in the background, or only in the studio instead of in the videos or featuring on the song, or not making a fucking group with Anderson .Paak and Boosie Collins.
Come on, dog. Listen, Marissa just said this is what I'm talking about. Because also, can we acknowledge where Bruno is from rather than his genetic composition? Barrio community is ethnic culture as much as psychological markers. Right. Yo, listen, if you grow up in an area where certain music is prevalent and you're an artist and you dig that music, what music do you think you're going to do?
Pretty much.
Come on. Again, there is an argument to be made about appropriation. I just think people are, for the most part, pointing that gun in the wrong direction. An artist just want to sing. He want to rap. Does he want to get famous? You motherfucking right he does, because fame is something that is imprinted in American culture, right? Like it's something, I get to be famous. People get on the news, get interviewed by the local news and the cameras around there. You got people in the background doing this to get in the camera. That's part of it. But an artist, all I can tell you is, just speaking for me, I just wanted to rap. I wanted to make songs. I wanted to make songs like the guys that I looked up to. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I still want to do. So I don't know if you can point at that man just because how many of you don't love Prince? Y'all don't love James Brown? Y'all. So if you listen to it and you could sing and dance and do all that, you wouldn't. Fuck out of here. No, it's not odd that he likes them. No. It's not odd that he likes them.
That doesn't make him an anomaly.
Fuck, that's not odd. Like,
he's not the outlier here.
And it's definitely not odd that he would be inspired by these giants, these musical gods. Like, what are you talking about?
And having the talent to be able to incorporate.
Right, nigga. Listen, I don't sing. I damn sure don't fucking dance. And I've been inspired by Prince to do certain types of music. I've learned from Prince. Prince said once on some of his songs that he might record in the studio, he doesn't stand up. Because the way the wind goes through your diaphragm and all of that, he's looking for a specific sound.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you sit, you get a bit too hype. So he might sit down. He might even kind of lean or whatever, like that. Because he's looking for a certain vibe from his vocals.
Right.
Laid back, whatever like that. I heard that and went, I'm using that. Because he was right. Because when I stand up, I get hype. Mm-hmm. As every beat don't require you to be, every beat don't require that. Although one could argue that most of the beats I use do, but that's not the point. That's not the point. It's not the point. It's not the point I'm making. It's not the point I'm making.
All right, bring it back.
but yeah, but so I learned that from Prince. Did I appropriate that? Now you might say no, because both of y'all black. So the common denominator is not the skin color, it's the artistry. He's an artist. He's going to be inspired by other artists.
Yeah.
Regardless of what their racial background is, regardless of that. I used to like Sinead O'Connor. We don't have the same phenotype.
Sinead O'Connor.
No, I like Sinead better. Fuck that D.
That's not.
Fuck that.
That's not her name. Okay, whatever.
Fuck that D.
Okay. Fine.
I'm just saying, people need to chill with that. Just all. Chill with that.
Leave Bruno alone.
Yeah, chill with that. I'm not. Chill with that
until he fucks up.
When he fuck up, I'm there with you. But until he do that, I ain't really. I'm not going to get on him about doing what every fucking artist does. I'm gonna get on the companies that decide that's what we push. We push that and let the other guy that has the African phenotype, he just don't look the way we want him to look to market him. So I'm gonna jump on the corporations. I'm not gonna jump on him. He's an artist.
Yeah.
Nah.
All right. Moving on. Amanda Gorman profiled. The hell you say?
Is she though? Continue.
So,
keep going.
Okay. We Fed tagged us in this video. It was a group of black people speaking. And the question that was asked, the topic of this video, is, do we play the victim? I'm going to repeat that. There was a video, and it was a group of black people having a discussion. It looked like it may have been a series. Forgive me, I didn't get the name or anything for a reference, but I'm guessing. Matter of fact, let me see. Let me see if I can pull it up with a quick Google search. People. Okay. Yes. Okay. All right. So you could easily Google it. If you Google, do black people play the victim? For me, it's the first YouTube link, the very first link at the top of the page for me. But Google has personalized searching, so it might not be the exact thing for you. But the video was published on YouTube on February 12th, 2020. I'm guessing it just made its way to him within the last day or so. So he sent this video and he asked for our opinions on it. And it's interesting how things work, because even though that video came out in February of 2020 and Feb happened to tag us in it yesterday or the day before, I had been hearing things like that recently in different places, in different areas. So it was kind of one of those eerie things that just happens to be going on in the ether at the same time, in my ether, my personal ether, at the same time. And there were two people. You guys can listen to the video yourself and make your own conclusion or whatever. But there were two people who kind of say, yeah. So let me read this article to kind of see if anybody out there agrees with yes. If y'all feel the same after I read this article. Amanda Gorman says security guard confronted her, saying she looked suspicious. Miss Gorman, who recited a stirring poem at President Biden's inauguration, said the guard had followed her as she walked home. Amanda Gorman, who became a national sensation when she delivered a stirring poem at President Biden's inauguration in January, said on Friday that a security guard had followed her home and told her she looked suspicious. A security guard tailed me on my walk home tonight, she wrote on Twitter. He demanded if I lived there because you look suspicious. I showed my keys and buzzed myself into my building. He left, no apology. This is the reality of Black girls. One day you're called an icon, the next day, a threat. Ms. Gorman said in another tweet, in a sense, he was right. I am a threat to injustice, to inequality, to ignorance. Anyone who speaks the truth and walks with hope is an obvious and fatal danger to the powers that be. Ms. Gorman, 22, who was from Los Angeles, did not immediately respond to a message sent through her website on Friday night. She is the youngest inaugural poet ever in the United States and was named the United States' first youth poet laureate in 2017 when she was a student at Harvard. So I just to call back to what I said before I started. This is National Poet Laureate performed a poem at the inauguration of the President of the United States. Performed a poem at the Super Bowl. And we just talked about how big of a cultural phenomenon it is. We just had that conversation. And she became the youngest. The first youth national poet laureate while she was a student at Harvard.
Where?
Harvard.
Oh, isn't that little community college off of
Rinky Dink college? No. One of the most prestigious colleges in the world. Yeah, all that, and she looked suspicious. Okay. In the poem, Ms. Gorman spoke of striving to forge a union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions. You gotta love that alliteration. You gotta love it. You just got to. Anyway, conditions of men. She described her background as a skinny Black girl, descended from slaves and raised by a single mother who can dream of being president one day, only to find herself reciting for one. After the inauguration, IMG models, which represent supermodels, including, I'm not even going to
don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do that.
Announced that it would represent Miss Gorman for fashion and beauty endorsements. And Good Morning America broke the news that Miss Gorman would perform at the Super Bowl pre-show, which she did in February. So do we play the victim?
Part of this is about people not wanting to be held accountable. And will do anything they can to not be held accountable, including frame narratives. We talked about this on the show a lot, about the power of narratives, and how you will find the most powerful people in the world. A lot of the times they've achieved and maintained that power through control over a narrative. So if, for instance, there was a narrative growing that people that behaved a certain type of way towards other groups of people who have historically been treated like crap for so long, this narrative has been pushed about them. That looks ugly. That looks bad. That you are a rotten person if you do something like that. If that narrative is pushed, the pushback to that narrative would be, that stuff's not happening. Or redefining that as something that's bad. So they'll say, well, that's not racist. Even if it is. And if enough of them get to promote that idea around, they get to reframe the narrative of that not being racist. This allows them to not be held accountable by society for the shit they did. This is part of it. If I say to you, you're playing the victim, the definition of that would be you're complaining about something that's not happening or never happened, right? But if the data shows that it does, If there's clear examples of this all over the place, if there's historical references of all of this,
you don't say.
Then the person's not playing a victim. They're talking about what happened. And here's the thing about that:
giving a recollection of history.
The reason those people have a problem with that, they don't want you to talk about that, because then there becomes a talk about holding people accountable for that behavior. If you mimic the behavior of the people that did that, you will be defined as they were. It's that simple. It's not that hard. But like I said, a lot of the same people that yell about personal responsibility, because I'm quite sure people that use that whole thing about people planning to be victims are always talk about responsibility. They don't want to be held responsible for the words and the behavior that they say and they do. That's all it is. That's all it is. And because I see that for what it is, I have come to the conclusion, especially over the last 2 years, it's phony. That much in the same way as when we talked about that Central Park incident, where the girl had the dog and threatened to call the police on the black man, and literally said, "I'm going to tell the police that a black man is messing with me, or attacking me." When you look at that same woman's social media, she identifies as liberal.
Yeah. All those things.
To quote Ace, I mean, they know. They don't want to accept responsibility for that shit. Nope. And my thing is, if you don't want to accept responsibility for some shit, don't do that shit. Then if you don't do it, and somebody tries to give it to you, you go, "No, B, I'm not accepting that." And people will rally around to protect you. But when we see example, just because you making an attempt to redefine words and terms to fit your narrative doesn't mean the rest of us are going to go along with that bullshit. We're not. We see what it is, and we're going to call it what it is, and we're going to call you the name that's supposed to be dictates towards you. Yeah. We're going to call you that.
Simple.
Yo, it's that simple. And you can get mad. You can scratch your ass till you get glad. We don't give a fuck. We don't give a fuck. You are the very things that they were talking about before. If you do stuff like that, you are. All this other thing. I hate this bullshit about, well, I can't tell what's in his heart. I can. Blood, arteries, plasma,
tissue,
maybe cholesterol.
I hate your guts.
I'm not here to look into your heart. That's what doctors do. Call your cardiologist if you're trying to see inside somebody's heart. I'm looking at your behavior. I'm looking at your behavior. And beliefs inform actions. So if you're doing that, that tells me what you believe already. Fuck out of here.
Thanks.
Fuck out of here. How tall is she?
I don't even know. I'm fairly certain she's not that tall.
She a threat though.
Yeah, she's a threat.
What on her is a threat? It's not a height.
Gotta be.
She says she's skinny.
No, it gotta be her smile. Has to be.
That smile must look dangerous as shit. She must have a Thanos smile. that grin Thanos did at the end of Avengers 1.
Facts.
To mess with Amanda is to court death. And she turned around like,
right.
Is that what's going on?
Apparently, man. Listen. I just found it.
Look, bro, I'm 6'1", 240 pounds.
You are.
If I got a hood on, my glasses are transitional.
Right.
So they're gonna turn dark outside. I got the little mask on right here because of COVID.
Yeah. I'm staying away. I'm staying away.
You might can get away with that line about threatening. Look like
he looks suspicious. He looks suspicious.
What, 5'5" maybe? 5'6" maybe? Skinny. She's a threat. Fuck out of here. Fuck out of here.
It's just interesting that I would run across this story after that video.
Facts. Yeah. No, actually, I'm gonna tell you something. No, it's not. That story is one of thousands of stories.
Right.
So what's interesting is the video you saw. that not that story. That story is a thing.
And ladies and gentlemen, if you go and go ahead and search that video up and go watch it. You will have watched more of it than I have, because I watched some of it, but I only watched it so long as to find out, to get the count. I needed to get the count. I need to see who was on the right side. Right. I want to, real quick, maybe not real quick. Certain conversations, I feel like, all right, prime example. I don't know if I've ever done this on the show. I know I've talked about it, but I don't know if I've ever revealed it. Right. I have a very specific belief about a very important and specific process that goes on in this country that I never talk about in public. And that's because I know that it's possible that someone may hear my argument and agree with it. And one of the reasons that's the case is because my argument is only true so in so much as a bunch of people don't agree with me.
Right.
The moment that a bunch of people start agreeing with this particular argument, it invalidates it by the nature of the argument. Again, I'm not going to give it out because that would be completely contradictory to what I'm saying right now.
Right.
So yeah, I'll switch it to a hypothetical so I can actually say what the example is.
Right.
So again, what that was about a process that happens in this country. I'm about to switch the analogy to something else. So let's say you are somebody that was raised when I was raised. Any time between when Toon was raised and when I was raised.
It's too big of a gap.
No, when you were actually raised, not when you. Anyway, if you were raised in that time period, you were raised with a lot of thoughts that are toxic.
Yes, absolutely.
You were. Now, if you've chosen to disregard them as you've gotten more information, great.
Awesome.
But these are the things that were prevalent. So if you have an issue with homosexuals and you're blaming that, let's say you're blaming it on religion. You're using religion as your crutch as to why you have an issue with homosexuals.
Right.
Effectively, if you never say that out loud, you're harmless.
Yeah.
You're still your opinion's still trash.
Right.
But effectively, if you
no one is harmed by the words you say. Now, if those beliefs turn into actions,
that's a different story.
Whether you say it or not,
that's a different story. But if it never manifests itself in any type of outward manifestation from you, essentially it's harmless.
Right.
So the argument would be, but we still need to fight these narratives, right? I don't disagree with that. My issue, though, is when you're fighting a narrative, that is a back and forth. At the very best, it's a civilized discussion in which both sides give their points.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
at the very worst, though.
Oh no, it can get. Hey, listen, I ain't gonna hold you. It can get dark.
Yeah,
it can get spooky. But I'm torn. So, away from analogies now. This conversation, in that goddamn video.
I think I know where you're going with it.
I don't know if these are conversations that we should be putting out in the public, because when you have somebody that's going to defend it, that just gives other people
ammunition.
ammunition. Yes.
Ammunition and talking point. Yo, I completely agree with you. I feel as though, and this is purely for I'm biased.
Right.
There are certain issues for which I am biased towards, and I recognize my bias.
Yeah.
Because I feel like certain progress needs to be made in certain directions, and certain conversations don't add to that shit. As a matter of fact, they do the exact opposite of that shit. They take away from it. And now there's one thing when you having a thought experiment, y'all having a thought experiment that doesn't affect actual people's lives, but some of these issues actually do. And we're talking generation upon generation upon generation. To a certain point, it starts to look like an episode of Hellraiser.
Yeah.
Where you're consistently being tortured over and over and over and over and over and over again with no respite, none of that shit. And at a certain point, really, this is the point. It needs to fucking stop. It needs to be reversed. And if what you're doing by fostering that and helping to, the world is run off narratives. If you help to further a narrative that has caused harm to a bunch of people for a bunch of years, you're not helping.
That part. It's like, all right, I'm all for it. Feels, for lack of a better term, it feels like this whole toxic fairness thing, because I understand the idea, the concept of Black people not being a monolith.
Right.
I am living proof of that. Right. I was a boy who grew up comics and certain movies and music. My first two pieces of music that I purchased were Limp Bizkit and Eminem. Like, my cousin and I used to watch MTV and listen to that and the box while we were playing NHL 97. That doesn't fit into the stereotypical
Black Sabbath literally influenced
the
beats that I like.
Right. So like, I'm aware of the whole Black people not being a monolith thing. I get that. However, there are some times when it's just not helpful.
It's not.
What is the point of having a public conversation talking about each side of us playing victim?
Yeah.
There is no help in talking about the other side of that.
Out of that. Nothing good comes out of that. Not to me. And again, it's like we were saying earlier, like if that narrative is bringing harm, and if it's giving cover to people in power that have control over resources, that have control over people's lives, and giving them an excuse not to change or reform a system that's harming real, actual lives, you're not helping.
You're not helping.
You're basically lending cover to them to do with no, don't lend cover, apply pressure. And let's say this. Maybe we should stop saying that whole Black people on a monolith thing. You know why? People on a monolith.
Thanks.
That's period on a monolith.
That's why my comment on that post was what it was. I said, basically, the arguments that he's making, if we are to follow a logical line and say that they're accurate, what happens is the entire conversation has now changed.
Yeah,
because yes, there are absolutely people who play victim.
Yeah,
but
people
of everything, right, everywhere. So it stands to reason, if people play victim and Black people are people, then some Black people. But that changes the whole conversation, though.
It does.
Because clearly that's not what we were talking about in the beginning.
Right. Because basically when he asked that question, he's asking about conditions of a community.
That's a response to Ben Shapiro.
Yes.
That's not.
Yes.
Yeah, yo.
Yes. Absolutely.
bothers my soul. Like I said, I watched as much as I could simply because I wanted to see how many people were on that bullshit that were on the video. And luckily, it was just the two. As far as I got, it was just the two out of what, like 6 or 5. So
but now you understand one of my main issues, where you know how you get what people are trying to do, but you don't think it's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
In other words, I don't question your intentions.
No, I get why you felt like that conversation was important to be had.
This is my issue with the whole black people are magic stuff. And I'm gonna tell you why I have an issue with that. Because I get the intent, I get why it's done, but one of the problems we have been having is them not seeing us as people.
Yeah, fact.
For instance, police would say stuff like, "Oh, you know, those black males, you got to hit them a little harder, choke them a little harder," because they're not. The idea that we're supposed to be long suffering, because we just made the stuff that can handle it, is a great way to keep your people suffering.
Yeah.
Once that gets accepted, I don't like the idea, even in the medical field. There's been complaints about doctors who think black people don't feel pain like everybody else feel.
I heard somebody say that shit is in the textbooks, actually.
At some point in history, I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised. They put a lot of shit in there, like when they found them ruins down there in South Africa and tried to say that an ancient tribe of Phoenicians migrated down there because they didn't want to give credit to the Africans that was living down there for building those ruins. So I'm not surprised if that's in a book some goddamn where. But what I'm saying is these things come at a cost. Again, narratives are important. How you frame the conversation is important. And if you keep pushing out there that we are mutants and magical and got superpowers when we really just people,
humans
that get hurt the same way.
That's it.
We get hurt the same way. What you maybe can make an argument about more resistance to the sun because of the extra melanin content.
Sure.
You can make that's a scientific benefit. Our nose is wider so we can breathe better in the heat.
Right.
That's all evolutionary biology. Okay, cool.
But the moment you're from a hot place.
The moment you start going outside the realm of that, I'm telling you, you're feeding into a narrative that does not serve our best interest. They're gonna fuck you up out there, acting like you don't feel it. Right? You know, I gotta. He's just so strong. I gotta.
Right.
And they're choking your life away. They got their knee on the back of your neck, choking your life away because he can take it. He's
that is a perfect segue, actually. So this next story.
This is an embarrassment.
I'm just gonna get right into it. BLM responds to demand.
Oh, I didn't know you was doing that one. All right, go ahead. Keep going.
From Mike Brown Sr. and Ferguson organizer for $20 million to the site of 2014 uprisings. The management and distribution of funds held by the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation, the umbrella organization driving a mission first introduced to the world in a viral hashtag, continues to be a topic of discussion. On the heels of their recent revelation
transparency
that they raised over $90 million last year, activists in Ferguson, Missouri, have issued a demand that the organization put $20 million of those funds into the community that helped put the issue of racist police violence firmly into the public's conscience. All right, hold on. I'm sorry. I got to stop right there.
There's so many problems with that.
All right.
I'm gonna let niggas go.
Rodney King.
Yo, first of all, what I'm gonna need you to do is stay the fuck out my head. That's what I'm gonna need.
I'm perplexed. I
would also say Fred Hampton Sr., but that's just me.
Absolutely. I mean, there are instances, several. But anyway, let me continue. Michael Brown Sr., the father of Mike Brown, whose fatal shooting by then police officer Darren Wilson prompted fiery protests in 2014, made the demand earlier this week in a public video with Ferguson organizer Tory Russell. The caption reads, today our co-founder, Ferguson frontline organizer, Vanguard TNT, alongside Mike Brown's father, demands $20 million from Black Lives Matter in order to continue the work they and others have been doing since the uprising since 2014. Where's all that money going, said Brown Sr. in a statement referring to the $90 million collected by Black Lives Matter. Why hasn't my family's foundation received any assistance from the movement? How could you leave the families who are helping the community without any funding?
This ain't the way to do this.
Listen, let me just get through this because I'm trying.
Not the way to do this.
Yeah, Russell, who represents the International Black Freedom Alliance, also echoed the request, calling on Black Lives Matter to put funding into Ferguson, where he says the movement began. But in a statement sent in response to the Roots inquiries, Black Lives Matter pointed out that the organization was not formed until 2015, a year after the Ferguson uprisings. Let me repeat that. The organization was not formed until 2015, a year after the Ferguson uprisings, and that it has never received a formal request for funding from the foundation founded by Brown Sr. The statement did not elaborate on whether any funding has gone to other groups near Ferguson, such as a separate foundation headed by Mike Brown Jr.'s mother, Leslie McSpadden. Brown Sr.'s Chosen for Change Foundation has not responded to the Roots inquiries about whether the organization has ever communicated with Black Lives Matter about its desire for funding before making the public demand this week. A response from the IBFA was also not forthcoming. Meanwhile, Black Lives Matter reiterated that it has committed $21 million of the funds it raised in 2022 Black Lives Matter chapters and Black-led organizations across the country. Last week, the organization said it distributed $3 million to Black people struggling financially due to the coronavirus pandemic. In December, 10 Black Lives Matter chapters across the country issued an open letter criticizing the umbrella organization for a lack of transparency about its finances and decision-making. According to IBFA, and the BLM 10 are in solidarity with Ferguson activists' request for funding to be funneled into the city. All right.
Is this how we do that?
No.
Is this the way this works?
First of all, this goes back to what I was just saying. About certain conversations.
Yo, you read my mind. I was thinking the same thing.
Should not be had publicly.
That's what we do.
Now, to be fair, actually, I'm gonna say what I was about to say, but I've changed my mind immediately. I was about to say if a formal request had been made and denied, then I can see you going publicly. But
I can't even see that.
But no, because
you're putting that.
What entitles you? Goodness. What entitles you? Let me reread this. Let me read this one thing. Where does it say? Today, our co-founder, Ferguson frontline organizer, Vanguard TNT, alongside Mike Brown's father, demands $20 million from Black Lives Matter in order to continue the work they and others have been doing since the uprising, since 2014. Two very important words in that statement. One, demand. Who are you to demand $20 million from anyone? If you want to demand $20 million from the government because of any number of atrocities that they've committed,
Right.
Okay, all right, sure. I got you. I ain't gonna hold you on that. The second word that is very important in that statement is continue. Where were you getting your money from before?
Previously.
Because you said continue. Because in order to continue, that means it had to have started.
Yeah.
Now, I've never spoken about this publicly. To be clear, the lack of transparency from BLM before was absolutely an issue.
Yep.
Especially when you're collecting so much money. Yeah, it's an issue. What's going on?
And if you had 10 chapters in there, basically transparency, it's obviously an issue.
Right. Clearly. So no, they don't get absolved for that. They started making moves to be more transparent.
Yep.
Why? Because people that were a part of what they were doing demanded it. People that were a part of what they were doing.
Yep.
Not outsiders.
Yep.
People that were a part of what they were doing. It's almost as if the people that belong to a corporation, organization,
self-correction,
company, country, were holding that body accountable.
Yeah, they were already doing that. They were already doing that. So again, you coming out doing this publicly, knowing the state of the politics in this country, especially in particular as it comes to BLM, all of the massive amount of lies that have been spread about them through people who really don't want to reform the police institution in this country. Everything from they created the virus to they are terrorists to they broke into the Capitol January 6th. All of these different things have been floated around in an attempt to frame a narrative against them. The 1 year where they actually saw growth was in 2020, mostly because of the George Floyd situation, where people who maybe was trying to hem and haw like that wasn't the thing to be whatever, saw the video and was like, oh, nah, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So the very idea that I don't have a problem with them requesting some help.
Sure.
I have no problem with that. I have a problem with demanding it and then not taking into account the political backlash to an already maligned concept, because BLM started as like a hashtag.
Yep.
And that was maligned then, because literally every damn thing that we do that does not involve entertaining motherfuckers, that has something to do with our betterment or our self-interest is going to be attacked. So it's like you doing that and then also claiming I gotta say, the laughable claim that it was the Mike Brown. I had this conversation actually not that long ago, because it is apparent why I refer to people as mortal all the time, not just because of the fact that it's true, but also their perceptions. If these people have this idea that if stuff happened before them, it didn't happen. Their life and the way their mind works is only encapsulated by their date of birth, which they don't remember themselves, by the way, and currently where they are in their particular lifespan, right? They don't think outside of that. So I hear people make statements all the time about how this is new, that is this, that is this. And somebody that has the timeline I have that dates way back to the Jurassic.
Okay, all right.
Laughs and
that's right back in.
I laugh in ancient every time I see that shit.
All right, okay.
Because it's like, yo, you do realize that there was a world before you were in it.
Right.
There was a world and things were happening and people were doing things and events were taking place. I understand you wasn't here for it, but that Rodney King shit, that Rodney King shit was tantamount to the MCU. as far as pop culture relevance and everybody knowing what the fuck was going on. That video had been played so many goddamn times. It is literally seared into my memory. And I haven't seen it in years. And I still, right now, thinking about it, can see the images. That shit was a thing. And then there was a trial. That conversation, that sparked the conversation that went on for years.
Yeah.
So the idea that you're taking that unfortunate situation, you're using that to say that's what brought it to the no, B. These conversations been going on for the longest time.
Yeah.
And you don't help the cause any.
No.
With the you don't. There's no problem with there's no problem with you asking for some help from organizations that are in that lane and may have the funds to do so. But as you saw from what they said in the article, they had been giving money out to different So you asking whatever, but demanding?
Yeah. Where the fuck did you get 20 million from?
This is the other question I have, because is this a number pulled out of the proverbial ass, or
has to be, yo,
or have you taken account of the expenses for the things you've done, things you want to do, how much it will cost? Because I would still say no. That's 20 million. Ask for 3. My dude, he was giving out 3 million here. Bam, ask for that. But 20?
Yo,
20? Hey, yo, Mike is hilarious. He said, Landon, you ain't that old. I didn't see you in Jurassic Park.
Oh, God.
But then he makes a very good point, though. He says, I still remember Rodney King. That was the first alarm bell he got in a whitewashed sticks of Pennsylvania. He was like 9 years old. I was grown when the Rodney King shit. I was grown.
Right.
Like I said, man,
listen. So let's just talk about this logically for a second.
Oh, don't do that. They hate that
shit. I know. Fuck them. So they made $90 million.
Your donation.
You feel like you need 20.
Which would take them down to 70.
No, because they already spent 20 and 3 and
facts.
Yeah. All right. So just realistically, not about you requesting help.
Nope.
No. The specific number that you chose.
Right.
You are a small town in a state.
Oh shit. Here we go.
So how are they supposed to operate moving forward? Are they supposed to pick one small town from each state? Well, that's 50 states. Then in that case, they wouldn't have any more money left.
Right.
Why should you get such a big piece of the pie? Do you have that percentage of Black people in the area that you're trying to serve?
Right.
I don't understand. I don't get where the audacity, the demand and the amount. The demand, the amount, and the fact that you decided to make this public.
Right.
Especially with them. If they are responding to comment saying that you never requested this.
Right.
That's kind of damning, because this isn't a conversation being had privately and you asking me, did I do something? And because it doesn't benefit me to tell the truth, I lie. No, this is something that can be backed up by receipts or not backed up by receipts. and they put forth the claim that you have not requested anything from them. So
Right.
I don't understand.
Listen, see, certain things I want to say, I don't want to sound super callous about it because they did lose a family member.
Yes.
But when you saw them report the 90 million, so I'm not even going to direct that to them. I'm going to direct that to other people. In the future, when you see an organization like that attempt transparency by telling you how much money was donated to them they made in that year, this is not a lottery. That's not what this is.
Facts.
Like, again, there is no problem with you asking for help from organizations that may have it.
Right.
They have the ability to do it. And to be truthful, the intersectionality of it, y'all are basically got the same cause. Yeah. So I can definitely see that being a thing, but then the reasoning behind it is suspect. Yeah. And then the amount is suspect. And then the tactic you use to try to shame them and again erode their credibility after it's already been attacked for years now. Do you not understand that the very concept of Black lives actually mattering is controversial in the United States? I would even say globally.
Right.
The idea that they matter is controversial. So you know an organization that one names itself that and then seeks to do activism in the name of that is going to be controversial. And as all politics are, it's all about narrative, man. Y'all feed into a narrative that people that are the enemies of that organization and enemies of their cause will then take that, put that on their little vlog, blog, news show, whatever, and then use that to paint narratives in communities, which, by the way, communities that proved they don't give a fuck about the cops either, January 6th. Let me put that out there. Put that out. You don't give a fuck about the cops. I don't want to hear that shit no more of you about no Blue Lives Matter shit. 140 cops got their heads cracked January 6th.
That's fact.
So from the same people that was mad at Colin Kaepernick. It's cap. That shit's cap. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to hit. No. But those same people could probably benefit from a group like Black Lives Matter in the cases where the police overreach with them. With them. Yet, you out here poisoning that narrative further. Poisoning it further, eroding their credibility. And you know, when you erode the credibility of any institution, that actually does affect their effectiveness.
Yeah.
Because if they can't, it's such a thing as having a moral authority on something, right? And when you erode that, nobody takes you seriously anymore.
At all.
They won't take you seriously anymore.
You can't get into the same rooms you used to get into.
You can't get in the same rooms. They don't talk to you no more. Why? Ain't you the group that blah 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 blah.
All that.
The phenomenon on Twitter. This you?
Right.
You gave them a this you? That's not even valid, but it don't need to be because the people they need to convince already have a predisposition to not fuck with that anyway.
Yep.
So it ain't like they got to do much or say much. They just got to put the story out there.
The other thing is, what you going to do if they don't? Because it's the debate.
I'm going to tell you what they're going to do. What they just did. They're going to go on social media, call them names, and tell them that their mama dressing funny. All this shit, they're gonna do that. And it's kind of crazy. It's not something that I would have suggested that they do. I mean, nobody has to check with me. It's true. But I'm just saying it's not something that I don't think it's a good look at all. I think it's terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Yeah. I don't know, yeah.
I don't either. I don't.
I don't get it. There was a point, however small the moment in time may have been, where I feel like we were all on the same page last year.
But you had to know.
Yeah, but
that was going past quickly.
Yeah, nigga. Like, I feel like for a small pocket in time, last year during some point, we were all on the same page. And then things just happened. It
reminds me of something, yo. There is a few lines in the song I have with Graydon Square called Ragnarok, where I say 5 mass extinctions waiting on that 6th one, and if and when the next come, then maybe we'll be all done. What will be the catalyst? Will climate change establish it, or will they kill us all with all their nukes and all their battleships? Dying from embarrassment of being disagreeable monkeys ensures their banishment. I wonder, will they vanish quick or linger on for centuries, grasping at the last straws and memories, huddled in their masses as they slowly freeze? Listen, the disagreeable monkeys part.
Mm-hmm.
This is the issue, yo. That's why we can't get on the same page, because humans are disagreeable apes. That's why we get on. You will find times when we mostly collectively get on the same page, and that has helped humanity go forward in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of the times we won't be on the same page, B. And as a matter of fact, I would even argue that those times when we were on the same page, it was on the behalf of the very few of us.
Oh, yeah.
Drag the rest of us kicking and screaming.
No, without question. Without question.
That shit,
Without question. It wasn't necessarily a collective arrival. It was,
we didn't all come to the conclusion that
it just so happened. All of us didn't drive.
No.
We just got there.
We got there. And basically what happened was this one or few were articulate enough, were charismatic enough.
Yeah.
The sun was shining in a certain area.
Right.
Their fingers were crossed. They was chewing the right type of gum. Like I said, and managed to heave ho. Right. And everybody came along. But
facts.
Ordinarily, that's just, it ain't the masses show. It ain't. It's unfortunate, but it's true. But maybe it's not all the way unexpected. You don't see
it's not.
It's not, yo.
It's not that it's a surprise. It's just still disappointing.
Well, it is, but when you look at different other species other than us, with the exception of a few insects or whatever, they got their individual bullshit too.
So you're basically saying we'd be better off if we were bees?
Yes.
Okay.
Or ants.
I mean, I'm not going to argue. Yeah, I'm not going to argue. I can't at this point argue with that premise. All right. Moving on.
Which one we doing?
White History Month.
Keep going. I'll be right back.
Oh, God damn it, Tim. I wanted to do a thing that kind of really I'll wait. Because he wanted to. Oh, I see what it is. I think he really wants to talk about this last one because we've had a conversation about it. So a little behind the scenes, ladies and gentlemen. I've said this before, but there are some people that probably didn't hear it that are listening right now. There are a few sites that through the time of doing the show have earned both our trust and respect as far as their integrity, as far as how they handle certain topics, as far as the stuff that they choose to report on, how timely they are with things, all of the aspects that go into what you want to use for a source. There was this one who I largely had issues with, but didn't want to dismiss completely because I believe it's owned and run by us. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna throw y'all away unless y'all be on some like super crazy stuff. And here lately, they've been relatively on the ball. I still run across the couple editorialized ones that I don't really rock with, but for the most part, they've been on the ball recently. So so we've been rocking with them, and the vast majority of the topics for today are sourced by that particular site.
Right.
So yeah, just wanted to give them a little bit of flowers while we here.
Right.
But so another thing to go along with this whole idea of playing victims. We're out of Black History Month. This first show since March has started.
Yes.
And I just wanted to put forth an idea into your heads. Black History Month. Why do we the question popped up again, as it does pretty much every year. Do we still need Black History Month?
Every year we hear the same old.
Why does it have to be a Black History Month? Why not White History Month?
Said by,
think it was racist if we had a White History Month.
Hold up. Said by those who know nothing about history.
Here's
obviously.
Here's the thing. White history is United States history. Here's the thing. I'll start with, I haven't heard too many people of the fairer skin complexion refer to themselves as white outside of this country.
Damn.
So that's just hearsay, right? But let's go to facts. Calling someone an American does not denote anything, really.
Where they live.
Yeah, it's just
where they live, where they were born.
Right. Okay. Similar to us, one of the few similarities that being black and being white share is a lot of them don't necessarily know where they're from. And third, when you're talking about something, the facts that are relative to the parameters of the scenario are all that are relevant. So if we're talking about Black History Month, we're talking about Black history in the United States. If we're talking about white history, again, that would have to apply to the United States. One of the things that I stumbled across, I've never heard it articulated this way. And I don't know how to the letter correct it is, but it just made me think of some things. Black history is United States history. Why is Black history United States history? Because Black people are pretty much the only people here that didn't have a choice. We are synonymous with this country because we were brought here to do this country
by force.
Yeah. So any other cultural, I don't even know. I've lost the term for what Black is now. I don't know if you want to call it a race, culture,
no.
like I don't even know.
I would more like, because we're contrary to a lot of people thinking, Africans, many Africans I know refer to themselves as Black.
Right.
But I think it's in response to what like somebody else positioning themselves, and some other groups positioning themselves in a certain thing.
Yeah.
Then we say, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. And
Right.
it beat what we were being called.
Absolutely. So yeah, any other category that is similar of any other different things in the same category as whatever you would call black. They don't have that history with this place. It just doesn't exist. Anybody else, in one way or another, chose to be here.
Even if one of your ancestors made a deal for a ride to get over here and agreed to work for a certain amount of years and then got their freedom.
Yeah.
That was a choice.
That was a choice. It may have been a situation where they were, quote unquote, left no choice but to leave.
Possibly.
But it was still a choice. It was still a decision that they made. Even if they made it because that was the only way they were going to continue to be able to live, it was still a choice.
They still had no agency because they could have just stayed and died.
They could have died.
Or stayed in fort. Stayed in fort.
So, yeah.
But no, that's not what happened.
It's us. This is one of the, I think this is one of the reasons that collectively there's this, in addition to all the other shit, there's this this feeling of a need for recompense.
Yep.
Because this is us. We are American history. Anyway, White History Month. The top 10 whitest laws of all time. After grueling 28 days of watching corporations, institutions, and random white people pretend to care about the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr., Harriet Tubman, and that other black guy with the big part in his afro, I think it's Booker T. Douglas.
Yes, yo. Yes.
We now return to our regularly scheduled program. Today marks the second of 337 consecutive days of white history. Unlike those racists who insist on brainwashing our children with the leftist 1619 project, the Root believes in honoring both sides of history. The factual part, as well as the part that's almost kind of based on a true story. We would never cast a great man like Abraham Lincoln as a white supremacist, even though Lincoln's belief that there is a physical difference between the white and black races literally fits the definition of white supremacy.
His quote.
Yeah. Well, we don't think it's necessary to tell our kids that he was in favor of having the superior position assigned to the white race, just because it's 100% true.
His words.
Yeah. There's no reason to do that just because it's 100% true. To honor the legacy of the men who gave us race-based slavery, Jim Crow, and separate but unequal, we present the greatest white America's greatest accomplishments in the field of systemic racism. Number 10.
Now, hold on. Before you go into your David Letterman top 10 list, we need to be very specific. They were very specific. They said white America's greatest accomplishments in the field of systemic racism. They're not saying there's no other, because you know how people will not understand satire at all. They don't get satire at all. Now, continue.
Okay. Number 10, sundown states. Ooh. While there are a number of sundown towns scattered across America, that's funny because I just had this conversation with somebody that didn't know what a sundown town was. But anyway,
were they playing victim at the
time? No. Actually, it was, we were talking about the whole trip and driving down to
a sunset to a sunset.
And I was saying like, because the idea was it's a 7-hour and 3-minute ride to the place.
Oh, it'll be dark by the time y'all got there.
Shut up. And the idea was leaving the day before and stopping somewhere to stay over. And I'm like, well, it depends because I don't want to come across Sundance.
Hey, what was the name of that little pamphlet, that guide that they used to give like people to go down south to the places they could go?
The green book.
Yo, do you have your green book?
No, I don't have my green book. Anyway, while there are a number of sundown towns scattered across America where Black people are forbidden after dark, a few states have tried to ban people who use seasoning from settling inside the state borders. Stop. During Iowa's first legislative session, an act to regulate Blacks and mulattoes barred Black people from settling in the state unless he or she shall produce a fair certificate from some court within the United States of his or her actual freedom. Of course, since most DMVs don't have judges issuing free Negro licenses, the law effectively abolished Blackness in the state. 3 years later, the state went full white and declared that no free Negro or mulatto shall be permitted to settle in this state. Oregon founding fathers saw Iowa's law and said, "Hold my beer." Writing in the state's constitution, no free Negro or mulatto not residing in this state at the time of the adoption of this constitution shall come, reside, or be within this state, or hold any real estate, or make any contracts, or maintain any suit therein. And the legislative assembly shall provide by penal laws for the removal by public officers of all such Negroes and mulattoes, and for their effectual exclusion from the state, and for the punishment of persons who shall bring them into the state, or employ or harbor them. Not only did they ban Black people, but the state's lash law allowed whites to dish out 39 lashes to any Black person they found in the state.
Stop. So when I hear y'all talking about cancel culture,
right. I mean, literally.
No, BC, when you have private companies doing shit and regular people deciding they don't fuck with you because you said something trash or did something trash,
that might be an inconvenience. That might be an inconvenience.
That's consequence culture.
Right.
When you tell an entire community, fuck you, you can't live here, you can't live, you can't work, you can't own shit here.
Yo.
That's canceled. You were canceled.
Nigga, this is epic. Yo, this is.
But see, again, when you read shit like this and people actually take time to avail themselves of the glorious history that this country has, you won't, once you do that, you won't be overstating some of the bullshit you see now.
Yo.
Because it's really an overstatement. Right? They blocked me from off Twitter. Right. Wonk, 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 wonk. Come on, B.
I couldn't.
Let
me read this again. I couldn't go. First, I couldn't go. I couldn't reside. I couldn't hold any real estate, make any contracts, maintain any suit therein. It's effectively being canceled. You effectively don't exist here.
Listen, if you're running around here now with that shit, talking about that and complaining and whining and acting like you being victimized and all some shit, you should be embarrassed. You should be fucking embarrassed.
Yeah. Okay. Number 9. That was all number 10. Number 9. White history law. A number of states have moved to ensure that white history is taught to students in public schools instead of.
Oh yeah, that this is a recent story that I saw. They not playing.
USA Today reports lawmakers in several state houses this year want to stop lesson plans that focus on the centrality of slavery to American history as presented in the New York Times 1619 Project.
They want to go back to the way it was when I was in school, where literally you got a paragraph about that shit and go about your business about how everything else is great and cherry trees being chopped down and silver dollars tossed over Potomacs and all that other shit.
Right. Previewing new battles in states over control of civics education. Republican lawmakers in Arkansas, Iowa. Oh, Iowa. That was just one of the. Okay, my bad. Arkansas, Iowa. So that's all. That's added to my list. Let me text her. I'm not going to Iowa either. Arkansas, Iowa, Mississippi, Missouri. Missouri and South Dakota filed bills last month that, if enacted, would cut funding to K-12 schools and colleges that provide lessons derived from the award-winning project. The South Dakota bill has since been withdrawn. Some historians say the bills are part of a larger effort by Republicans, including former President Donald Trump. So just in case all of the words that I was saying before that point
you thought
made you think this was old?
This was 240 years ago.
Including former president. So that happened this year. Former President Donald Trump, to glorify a more white and patriarchal view of American history that downplays the ugly legacy of slavery and the contributions of Black people, Native Americans, women, and others to the nation's founding.
So not only do you not want to make right a wrong you did to our families, you now want to erase the wrong at all so that the conversation in a few generations isn't even being had.
Indeed.
Got you.
Number 8.
There's tears to this. There's tears to this erasure shit. I'm trying to tell motherfuckers. It's tears to this shit.
And it ain't Bruno Mars doing Uptown Funk.
Nah, B. Nah.
Stop and frisk. Number 8. Stop and frisk. While America's system of policing is a direct descendant of slave patrols, they've evolved over time. Cops still stop Black people for no reason, but these days they don't particularly care to see freedom papers. Take New York City, for instance. In 2019, the latest year for which statistics exist, the New York Police Department stopped and frisked 13,459 people. While the city is 43% white, white people only made up 9% of stop and frisk searches. Black residents were 59% of the searches, even though they are 24% of the city's population. 66% of the people who were stopped and frisked in 2019 were innocent.
Here's one of the reasons for that. White people don't commit crimes. No, of course not. The reason for that is when you have communities that are like Black communities, Latino communities, whatever, that are heavily policed.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be stopping a lot of us. A lot of us. Because turns out when your tactic is to appear like an occupying army in a lot of these communities, you're going to have pretty much bad relations with the people that live there.
Mm-hmm.
Ask the Palestinians. Continue.
Number 7, White v. Clements. When Georgia expelled 33 elected politicians from its legislature after the Civil War, they took their cases to court. In White v. Clements, the Georgia Supreme Court ruled, after the most careful examination of this question, I am clearly of the opinion that there is no existing law of this state which confers the right upon the colored citizens thereof to hold office, and consequently, that the defendant has no legal right to hold and exercise the duties of the office which he claims under her authority.
So basically, just because they voted for your Black ass don't mean that you had the authority to even hold the office.
For its violence and discrimination against Black people, Georgia was expelled from the Union during Reconstruction, making it the only state to be kicked out of America twice for being too racist. I'm sure things...
Stop for a second. I do want to get some attention to Jonathan's comment, because this is actually one of the reasons for the Black History Month thing.
Yeah.
Jonathan says, I had never heard about any of that till he watched Lovecraft Country. So you see, there's still a reason for that. for us to have that because there's so much of this history that's not being taught.
All right, so let's have a quick lesson on cause and effect.
Mm-hmm.
Black history isn't taught the way that it should be taught.
Right.
Call it whatever you want. That's not the argument.
Right.
But Black history isn't being taught the way that it should be taught. Well, why do we need Black movies? Why do we need Black? Because that is an alternate way that we can teach people about certain things.
Even if it's not perfect.
It's not going to be perfect.
Right. Because trust me, your classroom wasn't perfect.
Right.
Your classroom wasn't perfect, motherfucker. So stop it.
Cinema at its best, art at its best, invokes questions. The hope is that when the questions are invoked, you go ahead and go and finish the research.
Yeah, well, hope springs eternal.
It doesn't happen always, clearly. But this is a great example of it working. So, yeah. All right. Number 6, laws against learning. South Carolina is a trailblazer when it comes to racism.
Whoa, hold on. You skipped something that I think is important.
Oh, no, I said it. You just.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Yeah. I can say it again. For its violence and discrimination against Black people, Georgia was expelled from the Union during Reconstruction, making it the only state to be kicked out of America twice for being too racist.
What the fuck are y'all doing?
I'm sure things have changed.
What the fuck are y'all doing?
Hey, listen, twice, my nigga. Hold up. Really? Like, so y'all was like, you know what? That first racism wasn't enough. I'll take your first racism and I'll raise you another.
Hold up, yo. Hey, Killer might go here trying to.
Yo, right.
Killer might go over here trying to suggest.
Motherfucker. I can't. Anyway. Number 6, laws against learning. Ooh. South Carolina is a trailblazer when it comes to racism. They were the originator of slave patrols.
We looking at you, Addy. Go ahead.
Laws against emancipating the enslaved and banning Black people from worshiping God, but the state's legislative efforts to stop Black people from learning.
How do you do that, by the way?
I have no idea. I don't know how that works because
you burn churches.
Whatever.
You don't need a church to do that, right?
But maybe though. Probably. Maybe that is what they did. But I don't know. Anyway, Black people from learning, stopping Black people from learning are among the best examples of white supremacy. Not only did the Negro Act of 1740 outlaw reading or writing among enslaved Africans, but when the 13th Amendment passed, the slave-loving state decided that Black people shouldn't be allowed to learn how a new skill, writing. No person of color shall pursue or practice the art, trade, or business of an artisan, mechanic, or shopkeeper, or any other trade, employment, or business on his own account and for his own benefit. So basically, you're a slave again.
Yo, and this is the thing. This is why it's always always so suspect. When you see actual movements out there against learning about Black history, against learning about the history of this country, period, when it comes to that point, because y'all literally made laws against learning. So, and now in modern times, you're still trying to do stuff to prevent people from learning. You're just going the other route. You're going to the back end route by adjusting what it is we learn, right? Learn this. Don't learn this. It's suspect when you if you don't. I gotta kind of go back to what we were talking about before. If you don't want to be called these things, don't do these things.
Don't do these things. It's arithmetic, actually.
Don't do it.
Just don't do it.
I spent what time is it? It is 1:44 p.m. You know, I managed to go half of the day without being racist to people outside of what I look like.
Right? What a novel concept. What a novel concept.
Just don't do it.
Number 5, gerrymandering. The most potent and practical form of election rigging has been practiced since America was founded.
It's still
It is neither rare nor frowned upon. It is an anti-democratic open secret used in every election to silence the voices of millions in every state and national election. It is a nasty tactic employed by everyone from the founding fathers to Donald Trump. And yes, it's legal.
It's legal.
It rewinds many of the advances made by the civil rights movement and laughs in the face of its detractors. It goes by many names: redistricting, electioneering, voter map making, and too many others to list. Most people just call it gerrymandering. They forgot redlining. But yeah. For years, Republicans across the country employed Thomas Heffler, the king of gerrymandering, to diminish black voting power in states and districts throughout the country, called the master of modern gerrymander. Hoffler pioneered using race to redraw political maps and hand electoral advantages to the GOP.
Could you please play this, please, on the show? People need to see what he's about to say. I really believe they do. This is an important context.
How long?
Because people think it's a camera
20
trick.
Seconds. Yeah, I'm about to play this.
People think it's a camera trick. So, all right.
It's 20 seconds.
When we talk about this shit, they act like motherfuckers just playing victim. Right?
Right. Let me get this into the software. What's it called? Thomas Heffler. Here we go.
Of course, redistricting is democracy at work. Redistricting is like an election in reverse. It's a great event. Usually the voters get to pick the politicians. In redistricting, the politicians get to pick the voters.
Yeah. But they think it's a camera trick. And people have been playing victim. Let me explain something to y'all about politics in this country. For those of you that may be unaware of this or maybe not from here. Right? So the way politics works here is that if the party that has the policies that you feel most benefit you gets in office, there is a chance that at least some of them will be passed. Now, usually this is a slow process that takes place over decades. That fucking sucks, by the way, but this is the reality of a broken system in a banana republic, right?
Thanks.
So here's the thing about that, right? As time continues to go along and more of these policies are enacted, the quality of life of people, especially those in marginalized groups, begins to improve. Yeah. However, the moment that process is interrupted, corrupted, or tainted by dumbass, racist-ass policies like this,
it's a setback.
It's a setback because the politicians, the party, or whatever that has the policies that this community feels does its best to improve the quality of life here for us, don't get enacted. If anything,
and let me be clear, when I say setback, it's a setback. It's not a pause.
No, it's a setback.
It's a rewind.
Because then the conversation needs to be had again. You need to convince people again. And this time, conditions on the ground may have changed to the point where it's twice as difficult to convince them this time as it was. It was like pulling teeth last time. So when they do shit like
but on top of that, the people that it would benefit have seen this happen before, and now they lack faith in it.
Now they're jaded that any changes can take place.
Yep.
Now
so they don't participate this time.
Also, we need to talk about the real life shit, because those policies that would affect or benefit those marginalized communities don't get addressed. So now we have generations of people still suffering under policies that shit on them and retard their progress. So the shit he's doing here, the shit that he did, and the shit that playbook that they're all playing by, this is not something that happened 240 years ago.
Right.
These are literally things that are still happening now. So when I hear you say something about people playing victim, I chuckle in oppression. Go ahead.
I hate your guts. Number 4, Louisiana's white supremacy. On May 12, 1898, Louisiana passed a state constitution that included poll taxes, non-unanimous juries, literacy tests, and other restrictions that virtually eliminated black political power. To make sure white people weren't affected, the new constitution included grandfather clauses that excluded white residents from the racist provisions. 80% of people who are still in prison because of non-unanimous juries are black. Even in majority white districts, white voters are unable to elect. Black voters are unable to elect their own judges. The state also has its own electoral college that tilts the voting power towards its white majority. Of course, I would never refer to this as white supremacy, but the E.B. Crutchnet.
Oh,
I got that. Hey.
Hey.
The E.B. Crutchnet, the president of the Louisiana Constitutional Convention, explained why they enshrined those laws into the state's DNA.
Why? Why did they do that?
I say to you that we can appeal to the conscience of the nation, both judicial and legislative, and I don't believe that they will take the responsibility of striking down the system which we have reared in order to protect the purity of the ballot box to perpetuate the supremacy of the
When did these laws get shut down, y'all? Did anybody know? Does anybody know? Class, does anybody know? Right around 1968.
Yeah.
I was born the following year.
Right.
Fuck out of here.
Number 3, felony disenfranchisement. When Florida's citizens voted to amend the Constitution to end its practice of disenfranchising people convicted of felonies, Republicans were like, fuck that democracy shit. Then the Trump-appointed federal judges were like, fuck that democracy shit. So they fucked that democracy shit.
Yeah, why not?
Basically, this policy is still enacted today.
It's still a thing. It's still a thing, y'all. It's still a thing.
So just for reference, for those who one of the issues that I've had with this site is that at times it makes certain assumptions, and that's fine because they have a base. So they're speaking to their base. I get it. But just for some people that have no idea. So what the Republicans did, the Florida House passes a bill requiring former felons to pay up before they can vote. That was the first fuck this democracy shit. The second one was ex-felons in Florida must pay fines before voting. Appeals court rules. In a reversal, a court said, hold up. God dang it. I think this is there's a paywall.
Oh, I hate you all.
It's fine. It's fine. Y'all get the gist. Number 2, and this is why they forgot it in the other one, redlining. Perhaps no government policy has affected the economic well-being of this country more than the government policy of redlining.
Say that again, please.
Perhaps no government policy. And mind you, this is why I came up with my idea of what reparations should actually be based on. I don't care about no everything after 1968. Let's cut off. Let's forget. Let's forget everything before that.
Y'all want to
for the purposes of talking about this particular conversation. Let's forget all that other stuff. Just the stuff that's happened since 1968, because that's when we were supposed to have been.
And not only that, 68 was when you by 68, that's when the laws were put in place that acknowledged your fuckery. It acknowledged your fuckery.
Y'all did this. We're changing it. Y'all did this. We're changing it.
The government did that. So now that the government fuckery was acknowledged.
That's what we're starting at.
We're
starting at a place where it is specifically and officially acknowledged that y'all was on some fuck shit.
Yeah.
Let's move forward. All right. Perhaps no government policy has affected the economic well-being of this country more than the government policy of redlining. So I'm gonna have to download this video.
You are.
Yeah,
You are.
I'm absolutely gonna have to download.
You have to, because people. I think this is one of also the most misunderstood parts of why there is wealth in certain communities and not wealth in other communities, and because this is misunderstood, they try to minimize the harm because they don't understand what the fuck actually was happening at the time. It's the reason why my grandfather had his bank account looking the way he looked and other people's didn't. It's the reason why.
There's absolutely a reason why. All right. So this next video basically explains redlining.
You looking for a new neighborhood to live in? Then come on down to Redlining Realty, sanctioned by the U.S. government. There's depressed infrastructure, underfunded schools, no white people. They're all in the suburbs. Heck, we'll even throw in free shoes. Now, doesn't that sound nice? Call Redlining Realty today, and we'll get you a house built on the most American foundation of all, racism. Today's baggage, redlining. Before we get into this BS policy called redlining that created housing segregation and pretty much jacked up the American dream for black folks, let's take it back to the 1930s. America is in the thick of the Great Depression, and y'all, it was bad. Around 1/5 of the country was unemployed, and nearly everyone was dirt poor. Along comes FDR with his New Deal. Dude was trying to revitalize the American economy, which created what we now call the middle class. But not so fast. FDR's New Deal would cement racial inequality in America for generations to come and birthed two programs that enforced housing segregation: the Public Works Administration and the Homeowners Loan Corporation, known today as the Federal Housing Administration. The PWA created affordable housing, and surprise, surprise, the agency created separate public housing for black and white folks, greatly segregating cities. Now let's talk about the Federal Housing Administration. The FHA created low-interest mortgages to build homes across the country. This agency actually built the suburbs as we know it. They basically said, hey banks, if someone applies for a mortgage, go ahead, build them a house. Even if they don't pay you back, we'll still guarantee a loan. Unless they're black. The FHA's manual literally prohibited the occupancy of properties except by the race for which they are intended. But before we go any further, let me call on a friend to break down the legacy of redlining. The world-renowned white peopleologist from the roots, Michael Harriot.
What's up?
He's a nerd IRL. He's earned a master's degree in macroeconomics and even taught race as an economic construct to some college kids. What's good?
Feliz, what's going on? Good to see you in these Unpack That Screeds.
How are these racist-ass racist government policies tie into what we now call redlining?
The term came about because the federal government, Uncle Sam them, created color-coded maps that told banks where they could give out housing loans. The green sections were a go, whereas the red sections, typically where black people lived, were deemed too risky. Even well-off black neighborhoods like Sugar Hill in Harlem, where black people like Zora Neale Hurston and Duke Ellington lived, were off limits to banks. Aside from financial barriers, there were actual physical barriers to prevent black people from living in white neighborhoods. In the early 1940s, there was a 6-foot-high wall in Detroit because redlining, and it's still there today. The Fair Housing Act put an end to redlining in 1968, but we know it ain't go down like that. Banks across the country have been caught using redlining maps as recently as 2015. And get this, most redlined areas are still low-income black and brown neighborhoods.
All right, so we're going to stop right there because it's a long video. But number one, a bit of breaking news. The stimulus bill has passed in the Senate. So for those that don't know how these things work, because I've had these conversations a bunch over the past week or so. So right now, what this means is that it has to go back to the House of Representatives because it passed the House of Representatives, but when it got to the Senate, they made changes.
Yeah.
So because they made changes, it has to go back to the House of Representatives. As it goes back to the House of Representatives, if they pass it, then it will go to Joseph Biden's desk, where he may or may not, and he says that he will, sign it into law, and those policies will come
to
fruition. So yeah, that's a couple bullet points. The bill, which includes checks for many Americans, will now go back to the House for separate vote before Biden signs into law. The marathon voting session, or vote-a-rama, on a series of amendments began Friday before noon, lasted more than 24 hours after nearly a 12-hour struggle to get Democratic Senator Joe Manchin to support the party's plan to extend unemployment benefits. And yeah, so y'all can look forward.
Mull among yourselves with that.
Yeah, y'all can look forward to some money coming soon if y'all don't make $80,000. Yeah,
heaven forbid you live in Maine, because $80,000 ain't shit in Maine. But
I mean, it's just what it is. Or, shoot, L.A., like New York. I mean, but it is what it is. Anyway, so basically, to recap, redlining, they literally separated places on the map to say, oh, this is a black area, you get no money.
No money for you. And this is why when we talk about recompense, we're talking to the government.
Yeah.
The government legislated these things, basically legislated poverty towards one community. They did that shit, and they need to pay for that shit. It's that simple. It's simple.
A lot happened in 1968. And like I said, that is the starting point. That is the starting point that has the most facts that, you know, we still have what's the word I'm looking for?
We still have
the proof that we have.
Yeah.
The proof that we have is not like old and dilapidated and had to be interpreted because they spoke differently. And no. Ain't none of that.
I would also argue you could go back at least a little bit at 64.
Sure, absolutely.
The 64 Civil Rights Bill is an admission that that's an admission of Jim Crow, segregation, all that shit. That's an admission of all of that shit before the 200 some odd years before. That's an admission.
And it also gets rid of the narrative, oh, nobody alive today.
Right.
Stop that.
Right.
No, we're not doing that.
I'm alive. I was only born in 69. Just saying, y'all. Like,
all right. So back to this list. Yeah. Number 1, slavery. No, not that one.
Not that one.
But also, yes.
But that one too, yeah.
The 13th Amendment outlawed slavery, but they included a loophole that said neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States. But why are black people the ones who are always duly convicted? Have you ever heard of corrupt police officers, overzealous prosecutors, mass incarceration industry, biased judges, private prisons, penal profiteering, the war on drugs, the war on crime, or plain old war? You haven't. Well, have you ever heard of white people?
Again, this is something that people don't like to talk about. And I think the way the conversation usually goes about this, they don't understand. We're going at your government. Your government legalized all this shit. You cannot now act as if this is a different government. This is the same fucking place. Y'all still revere the same people that was literally signing these things into bills. Y'all revere them. The people that was in control. If y'all gonna keep loving on George Washington, you gotta take all the smoke. That's all I'm gonna tell you. It's the same.
Factorials.
Y'all still want to claim accomplishments from Thomas Jefferson. Y'all want to claim accomplishments. All of these things were happening under them. So this is the same government, same shit. We going at them. What I don't understand is there are quite a few people outside of our community that should have beef with the government too. Yeah. And yet Instead of them handling that smoke. What's up, Fabo? Handle that smoke. Instead of them handling that smoke, you trying to go and interfere in us handling the smoke with this government.
You're right. You the only thing you're right about is this ain't got nothing to do.
So sit down and let us have this conversation with this government. Yeah. Let's have this conversation. And then you know what? I'll tell you what.
Be fair. I will be fair. I will give you this. Yes, you're gonna pay for it.
I mean,
yes. Yes, but we are going to pay for it as well.
My grandfather
going to be beneficiaries.
My grandfather and grandmoms paid for the reparations that were paid to the Japanese people for them putting them in internment camps.
Right.
So their tax money went to pay for that. And my grandfather and grandparents in general had no power.
Right.
Literally was not being treated like full-fledged citizens.
Mm-hmm.
And they still paid out their pockets for that because it was wrong. Yeah. The only money the government has, unfortunately, is the money we give them. That's what it is.
It's the crazy thing about the craziest thing about this. I just said something. Yeah, you're going to pay for it. That doesn't even have to be true. Because there have always been, I ain't gonna say always. As long as I've been aware of such things, it has been the case that there are politicians who put forth bills that will increase taxes on the highest earners in the country. And some of you dumbasses have such an issue understanding when something is beneficial for you or not, or when something is your business or not, that you fight against these things. Yeah. You make $85,000 a year.
Let's say that. Let's give them that.
You about 15,000 away for 100K too, bro. Look at you go.
Keep going, yo. Keep going.
You're not rich. You are not rich. If they're talking about taxing people that are at the $400,000 income level, and your response is, oh man, they're trying to raise taxes, but you haven't made $400,000 in your life? What? This is why you might be lumped in with people who are racist. Because if somebody's trying to make something happen, and we know for a fact that the people who are going to have to pay for it, and I'm not talking about revenge, I'm talking about literally finance it, are people that are not you, and you still have an issue with it, that's coming from some kind of hate, it seems. Either some kind of hate or some kind of ignorance inside of you. And I'm sorry, but the go-to, when those are the ingredients in this scenario, is you being a racist. Because what other sense does it make? I can only say and assume, because I've never been in this position, I can assume that if I was someone who made $1 million a year, that I would understand the tax thing. I think part of that is because I've made it to my 30s not making $1 million a year. So I'm not accustomed to it or any shit like that. So I feel 85% positive that if I was making that kind of money, I'd be fine with the tax increase. 85%. There's still 15% that I'm not sure, because I'm not in that position. But
I feel like when it comes to shit like that, yo, I tend to see things from a macro standpoint a lot of times. It does not help your society to have so many people disenfranchised.
Right.
It does not help you in the long run.
No matter what it is that you do, that you pull in that kind of money, you need people that don't.
Yeah.
In order for you to continue making that kind of money.
Yeah. It doesn't.
It's simple.
You keep people, listen.
Even if it's something indirect as you make your money completely, quote unquote, self-made internet personality.
Right.
Well, you need people to be able to afford internet.
That's right. They got to be able to see you. It does not benefit you. Listen, if the financially least among you are still fat and happy, you're doing good.
Yeah.
The problem is when the disgruntlement, because I'm gonna tell you something, y'all do a great job of playing groups against each other. Y'all do a great job of people that could actually benefit from certain policies, but you have them at each other's throats so they can't collectively come together and decide, yo, we see what you're doing, and then go at you. Y'all do a good job of that, but you can't really rely on that because let's say history has shown us that once those disenfranchised masses do decide to stop doing this for a second and then look at you, it's not going to be good for you.
Nah, B.
It's not going to be good for you. And then this is the reason why, rather than do that, you want to keep it. Let me tell you something. There's some old hood shit. Around the neighborhood I grew up in, there was your fair share of drug dealing. Your fair share of drug dealing. Yeah, it was happening. It was a thing. And the issue always was when there was a dispute between two parties that maybe did not work with each other. Whatever y'all about to do, don't do that here.
Right.
You know why? Because you can't beef and make money too.
Right.
And you'll fuck up the spot for everybody else. Because while y'all beefing and shooting back and forth at each other, the police gonna come around here and shut this whole market down, looking for your dumb ass. And in the turn of looking for both of y'all or trying to solve the crime you just committed, they're gonna look into other crimes while they're there. So literally nobody's gonna be able to make money. That corner's being watched. This could have been a great corner because in Baltimore was famous for these open air drug markets. Literally, motherfuckers just running up the cars at stoplights. This whole thing is shut down now because this whole area is being monitored.
Right.
It's all shut down. Much in the same way as this. You can't make money if we beefing with you. That's it. And that's why do you think it's all these companies and corporations now? And we're about to get into something of that in the next story. Why do you think it's all these companies and these corporations now who are proactively detaching themselves from toxic imagery and people? Because they don't want the smoke that happens once it comes out, and they weren't the ones that admitted it first, that there are people that they are aligned with that are maggots.
Yeah.
And have pissed off certain interest groups. And it's like, nope, we cutting the cord on you because you're not going to interrupt our money.
You cut off.
That's not happening. Facts. Why do you think that's a thing? Because they know they can't make money if they beefing.
Facts. All facts. All right. Let's get into it.
Oh, I'm so glad we got to this one.
Of course you are. I know you are. I said that in one of your breaks. I was like, yeah, this motherfucker, he's waiting for this one story. Now, fair warning, dear listeners. What I'm about to say out of my mouth is going to confuse some of you. I get it. Just sit back, relax, and let it happen.
That sounds creepy as hell.
It is what it is. Dr. Seuss books are selling like green eggs and hotcakes amid controversy over ditching of racist books.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, you can.
Why they always run to the trash? They run to it.
It's a whole thing. And now I'm hungry. I have food.
I do too, but I'm awake because I gotta take a pill.
Well, Take a chill pill then.
Yeah, shoosh.
Get it? Because okay. Anyway,
Shoosh.
So conservatives across the country got their cat in the hat theme underoos all in a bunch over imaginary cancel culture that only had imaginary things to do with Dr. Seuss Enterprises making its own damn decision to discontinue 6 books, most of which, like 9 people total, have read from publication over over what it deemed to be racist and insensitive imagery. As a result of this absolute controversy, Dr. Seuss's books have been selling like green eggs and hotcakes because crybaby ass counter council culture cowards. Whoa, look at that alliteration. Crybaby ass counter council culture cowards banded together to buy up scores of children's books that likely come just shy of matching their current reading level.
Earlier in the last topic we did, we showed you exactly what cancel culture actually is.
Mm-hmm.
This ain't it, Chief.
Nah, B. The fine folks at Fox News probably got a nice, juicy collective heart on when they got to report.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. They got to report that Dr. Seuss's books seem more popular than ever amid the controversy that only exists in the minds of paranoid white ringers. According to Fox, Dr. Seuss classics, The Cat in the Hat, Oh, the Places You'll Go, and Green Eggs and Ham were all out of stock on Amazon, but still available at a higher price on Barnes & Noble's website as of Thursday evening.
They still getting them.
Listen,
still getting them.
None of this represents anything extraordinary at all. Surges in sales of products connected to controversy, even fake controversy, happen every day, B.
Yep.
R. Kelly, unfucking fortunately, saw a rise in Spotify streams just after the Surviving R. Kelly docuseries dropped. Years ago, Seinfeld's DVDs saw a sales boost shortly after disgraced comedian Michael Richards went full KK Kramer.
He did.
On black audience members while he was performing a show.
They know.
Country music star Morgan Wallen, we talked about the story, had his music removed from streaming platforms and radio stations, refused to play him after he was caught on video using the N-word.
Just talked about that.
Music went up. People are terrible, and drama increases sales. It's nothing new. Of course, that didn't stop the conservative blowhards like Texas Senator Ted. I left my wallet in Cancun, but I'll give you this water soon. As the camera starts rolling, Cruz from celebrating Dr. Seuss books by making a complete ass out of himself on Twitter.
It's on brand.
The first post, he posts the sales of the books and he captions it, "Who knew Joe Biden was such a great bookseller?" Then he quote tweeted himself and said, "Could Biden try to ban my book next?"
Except for the fact that Biden did not ban this book. You go ahead. My pressure is up.
One vote away was the #1 bestseller on Amazon a couple months ago. Maybe Joe could get it back there. So, who knew Joe Biden was such a great bookseller? Horton, here's a snowflake, tweeted. Because apparently Cruz thinks Dr. Seuss Enterprises has accepted a cabinet position in the Biden administration. Cruz then followed his first jab of embarrassing nonsense with a whole white nonsense uppercut when he tweeted, "Biden tried to ban my book next, one vote away, was #1 bestseller, blah, 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 blah." And that, my friends, is how you know cancel culture is bullshit. Because if it were really the plague on modern society, people claim it is, no one would need to be this extra over something as mundane as the discontinuing of racist children's books nobody cared about until now. This is dumb. So dumb. Now, let me catch y'all up just for a second.
Please.
If you don't know what's going on.
Please.
I had to have this conversation with Tim as well. The reason that this has come up is because a couple things happened. One, the organization that has the estate of Dr. Seuss decided to discontinue some of the books because there was a backlash that happened a while ago. Simultaneous, I don't know how simultaneous it is, but around the same time, there was an organization that made a quote unquote holiday to help improve literacy. And it was, when they started it, they closely connected it to Dr. Seuss's books. They have recently made the conscious decision to separate the two. That's why this is happening. Those two reasons. The organization decided to separate Dr. Seuss from their holiday that they created, and the Dr. Seuss estate decided to discontinue certain books because of negative imagery.
So, to be clear, there were no protests.
No.
There were no one making threats towards the companies of no longer purchasing their shit.
No.
There was no news story that got out there, because the last story that I even saw anything about Dr. Seuss and some of the racist imagery, which goes beyond those books, by the way. He used to be someone that drew for ads. There was one particular ad in specifically that was for bug spray. And if you look at the imagery that he drew there, I guess that's what Africans look like to him, right? Whatever. But there was none of this. The story was back in 2012, right?
Yeah.
So there was no people with picket signs. There was no people firebombing buildings. There were no people trying to break into the Capitol.
No.
This was never forget. These were companies that made a decision, did not attach their shit to this preemptively.
Yeah.
Like, oh no one's going to be able to pull this out.
Yeah.
And then cost us money. Nope, we making a business decision right now. Nobody's reading those books any goddamn way. Nobody cares about those books. We know the books that they made movies out of, and the they ain't got none of that in there. So we're gonna keep those rocking, but this other shit, we're gonna cut that off and toss that out. I saw some of you fucks on social media acting as if this is an outrage. I saw some of you fucks jumping out of the window when the stairs were clearly marked.
Yeah, they're right there.
I saw some of you doing the exact same thing you accuse the so-called outrage culture of doing. Getting upset over something that isn't a thing. Biden,
if you did any little bit of research, you would have seen.
So no, palm tree Ted Cruz, Biden did not ban anything. Not a thing.
Here's the thing.
Go ahead.
There used to be an issue that I personally had with Donald Trump, and I've asked you this several times, where certain things that he said, I was absolutely 100% sure on. But there are other things that he said that I wasn't sure if he knew that he was misleading people or if he was really ignorant of what he was talking about. I don't have that confusion here.
Right.
I know for a fact that a senator doesn't believe that the president of the United States is trying to ban a book that he isn't trying to ban.
Like I said, I've often argued, even with people who might genuinely believe that something he said is true, even though there's literally a past history that shows that he says what he thinks he needs to say in the moment to get past the conversation.
I mean, he literally crossed the border for protection, but that's not
right.
That's a whole other story.
Right. Trump does the same thing. He literally says what he needs to say in the moment, and we got people that know him, people that have known him for years that say the exact same thing.
Yep.
However, a lot of the times, these people are preying on the uninformed motherfuckers that have more passion than information.
Facts.
Motherfuckers who have more grievance than knowledge. So it doesn't take much to rile them up. So you dumb motherfuckers went out here and spent your COVID checks on some goddamn Dr. Seuss books that you're not going to ever read.
Here's the issue. You end up really just being the ass, right? Because the company itself initiated this.
And they never planned on making any more money from these things. So you running out and doing that, you gave them a boon of
you gave them free money. Like you literally gave them free money.
And you actually supported their cause.
You absolutely supported their cause. Because what you're telling people is that they can go ahead and get rid of something that's been around for a while because of fear of backlash, and you dumbass fucking
rewarded them for it.
Will go out and give them money that they had already conceded they weren't going to get
it anymore. And you went.
I can't make this shit up.
No, listen. Again, when I saw people jumping out the window over this, I laughed because some of the people that were jumping out the window on this look like me. See. The pictures, many of those pictures that Dr. Seuss drew,
didn't look
represent
like
they were his alleged representation of people like me and you fucking hump.
Yo, the craziest part about this is I didn't find out about that part. I never knew about that part.
Right.
I stumbled across the article about the company doing it on their own and blah, 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 blah.
Which I didn't, by the way. I didn't come across that article.
That's how we came across this because Kim hit me up and asked me about this shit.
What is this? What are you talking about?
And I'm like, oh, nah. It's nobody's trying to cancel Dr. Seuss. That's not what's going on. The company did the shit. And then I stumbled across this story. And it's like, what the fuck?
So at this point, when we want to talk about what's a dysfunctional society, you can't have different demographic groups all vying to be victims. And in a lot of cases, specifically historically, do not apply to certain groups here. But all these groups are doing this at the same time. You can't have that and functionality too. You can't have that and functionality too. So the reality is what's going on is there was a time, I'm sure, maybe a small window where people could agree with what the facts were. Nobody agrees anymore on what the facts are.
Right.
So because of this, basically, it's just people are running amok to claim a narrative. It doesn't matter if it's factual. It doesn't matter if the data supports it. They're running amok to claim real estate in a narrative that gives them power or privilege. And I'm here to tell you right now, it's not going to work for you. Not in the way you think. Because all it's going to do is embolden people against you. It's all it's going to do. You continue to lose credibility every time you say shit about Dr. Seuss's cancel culture when it's not cancel culture. And I know some of you are real funny. Y'all some funny motherfuckers because I know for a fact that had you been alive in 1963, you wouldn't have saw the bullshit that the Civil Rights Bill sought to address as cancel culture. But you're now running around this motherfucker doing think pieces on Dr. Seuss. Y'all some funny motherfuckers. But this is why when did Dr. Seuss die? Let's see. Let's take a look at that. Let's do a quick Google search on Dr. Seuss death. He died in 1991 at the age of 87 due to oral cancer. So, again, as stated, y'all ran around this motherfucker doing the most. Doing the most. But I kind of expect that from some people. What I don't expect, take that back. What I really am annoyed by is people jumping out the window that stand to benefit in no way, not even in the adoption of the narrative. So even if they're losing money, they do probably benefit in some way from furthering the narrative that the world is against them or whatever, even though they clearly that's not a thing. It's never been a law put in place. None of that to do anything to you fucked up. But they might benefit from that talking point in some way. Those of you that don't, those of you where they literally had to write laws to make you a citizen because the motherfuckers refuse to treat you like that, those people, y'all funny as shit adopting that shit. You cosplaying. That's all I'm saying. You cosplaying hard as shit. You cosplaying hard as shit. Y'all funny with that.
Where's the legislation? Show me.
Show me. Show me.
Point to it. Point to this book where they hurt you.
Show me the line, the clause, the provision. Show me. Where's that? It ain't there, Bree. It ain't there, B. So I don't understand. I'm kind of exactly where you were at the beginning of this broadcast. Trying to figure out what the fuck y'all doing. What are y'all doing?
It's a sad state of affairs.
It's people out this motherfucker dying right now. It's people out this motherfucker hungry. I don't think I mentioned it on the show, but months back when I went to a funeral, months back, we rode past my former junior high school, and there's a line of cars going around the block, causing traffic jam in that little area of Hilton Street because people are around there in a food line trying to get boxes of food.
Yeah.
What the fuck are y'all doing?
Right.
What are you doing? Making hay over something that ain't that. It's green eggs and hams, you stupid mother. It's just a. And it ain't even that. It ain't even what you upset about. It doesn't fit your narrative, but you're gonna try to shoehorn it into that shit. You've lost your fucking minds.
Yeah.
And I don't want to live here with you anymore. I don't want to live here with you anymore.
Yo.
You lost your minds.
Yo, that meme. Is this who we are? Is this what we represent? Yes.
Yes, motherfucker.
Yes. That is what is going on. That is the reality of what's going on right now.
Can you imagine? You have people bringing up conversations about generational disenfranchisement, where people literally for generation after generation did not have the proper health care because they couldn't afford it. Did not have the proper education because they couldn't afford it. Was kept out of positions that would have helped their family raise their wealth, raise their profile, so that the next generation didn't have to go through the same bullshit. Generations of people that literally were forced to live in areas that had lead paint. But the kids ate it and then fucked with their ability to learn.
Wait. All right. Listen. I'm with you. I'm on the train. But I ain't gonna hold you.
You don't let people eat lead?
Them lead checks?
Look, them lead checks, they was everything. But what I'm saying to you, there was people that literally were put in these positions by the government. The government made this
legislation. Wait. No. I need to be more specific, just in case people aren't listening. They were put in these positions by the governing body of the thing that we consider to be our home.
Right.
The governing body of the thing that we consider to be our home, of this country, aka there is no escaping it.
Right. There is no amount of bootstraps you're going to pull up to stop that.
Right. If you are 18, 19-year-old kid and you live in your parents' house and your parents make rules that you don't like, you have to deal with it lest you find somewhere else.
Right.
But you have to have the resources
To do so.
Funny how that matches.
So all of this, people are bringing up these conversations, and you motherfuckers, a lot of you, are poo-pooing it. Why do you gotta talk about that? But you want to talk about Dr. Seuss books. I don't want to live here with you anymore. Seriously. It's come on, man. That
my well-being.
It's not, that is what you get up in arms about. That is where your activism is. That
nigga.
You willing to put money into that? You willing to take your ass out in these COVID streets to your nearest Books A Million,
right?
And cop one of them for this? But I'm told, SBJ is told, and everybody is told not to talk about this topic because it makes you feel sad. I don't want to live here with y'all anymore. I really don't want to live here with y'all no anymore. Like, I can't, man. I can't. This shit is absurd. It's absolutely absurd.
Myself in.
And honestly, this last story was meant to be funny, and it still is.
Oh yeah.
Like, even with all our critique right now, talk about you dumb motherfuckers going ham over this.
Understand it.
It's still hilarious. Our commentary on this is hilarious.
Y'all
you
wasted a bunch of fucking money. And here's the thing. What the fuck you gonna do with the books?
Yo, that again, you're not even going to read that shit. It's going to sit some motherfucking where.
Because they about it being at your reading level, that's hilarious. But literally,
you're not going to read.
You're not going to read them books.
You're going to hold this up as a what you going to do? You hold this up as the trophy? How you won? You won something? Is that what you did? You know, you can hold it up as a trophy?
Need out.
Is that do you feel accomplished now?
Do
you feel you've made the world a better place? Have you helped anybody? Dr. Seuss is dead. Long since been dead. Did you help him? Did you help anybody? Or did that feed into your privileged bullshit that somebody is doing something to you?
I'm gonna go with B. Mind you weren't thinking about getting no damn Dr. Seuss. Never mind.
You didn't care about none of that shit. You didn't care about, and trust, and here's the thing. All of the things that you actually knew Dr. Seuss for was not this.
Right.
And you already have that. You have access to that. You got the movie Jim Carrey made, all that shit. You got all that shit. All that shit. You got the Lorax. You got all that shit.
Yep.
You still got all, nobody took that from you. These are books you probably never even heard of.
Yeah. You got the
and you went out of your way to get the shit.
You got the Lorax, you got Whoville, you got come on. He was prolific, if nothing else.
Odin's beard, you're dumb. That's where the energy is. That's where the energy is. So these
are you gonna send Tooth Gnasher and Tooth Grinder after them?
He on the way. Freaky and Gaily too. My two Ravens too. They coming. It's just, again, it's one of these things where this is the reason why I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I don't believe it's anything other than self-interest and massaging your ego and how you feel. You are interested in keeping a system in place that has shitted on people. You cannot then run around here and act as if you shouldn't be called those names.
Yes,
your actions are that. And when I said, when I saw a bunch of black people being outraged for that, I'm like, either you couldn't possibly know the whole story. So basically what you're doing is feeding into a narrative that doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve you. Listen, the whole idea, for those who don't know, the whole idea of people are too sensitive these days was put forth by people who had grown accustomed over decades and centuries of talking shit to marginalized groups and calling them all kinds of fucking names without consequence. As a matter of fact, let me disabuse you of this notion. We never liked that shit.
Right.
We never liked that shit. What it was, if you complained, if you rose up against that, the penalty was under pain of death.
Right.
They were literally putting nooses around necks and cutting balls off.
Literally.
This is not hyperbole.
No.
They were literally doing that when you rose up and said some shit that they ain't like. You voiced the complaint that they calling you out your name, that they saying is doing this shit to you and disrespecting you or your wife or your kids. It would literally threaten to physically harm you. And what's worse, you could have defended yourself and fucked them up, but then the police was not riding with you.
No.
It was not riding with you.
They soon come.
So once the narrative, thanks to Hollywood, and you can't thank Hollywood for much, but thanks to Hollywood making movies and stuff that depicted those type of people back then as scumbags. Nobody wants to be attached to that imagery. So instead of not being that asshole, you decided to try to reclaim the narrative where doing those things aren't really racist. So then you decided to put racism in a box and say anything less than lynching you is not is not racist. Anything less than cutting your balls off is not racist. So when I hear you parrot that shit, people they're sensitive. Nah, B, you know what it is? It's those marginalized groups that was talked shit about and insulted for the longest time, saying we ain't having it now. You don't get away. You know what? As it turns out, you don't get away with calling me nigger. You don't get away with that. That's all that shit is. And if you can't understand how people don't want to be insulted, I had this conversation not too long ago with somebody about this shit who didn't seem to understand. People don't want to be insulted, B.
No.
And they're not going to pay money to be insulted unless they go into a Don Rickles stand-up routine. They're not going to pay money, their good money, and spend their time, the one commodity they can't get back, consuming your content if all you're going to do is insult them. Nobody's going to do that.
Because why would I do that?
Why? Why would they do that? So if they decide, I'm not watching his shit no more, I'm unsubscribing from his channel, I'm unfollowing him from Instagram and all the other places he's at. They did that because they don't want to be insulted and they feel like you insulted them. That's what it is. That's what it is. But no. Continue. By all means. Tell us where in the Dr. Seuss book they hurt you. Fuck out of here. That stupid ass shit. And that, thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Okay. All right. They appreciate it. Everybody
No, they
give it
don't.
up.
No, they don't. They will when I'm gone.
Everybody give it up for Landon O. Taylor. I meant to make that joke earlier, but it slipped my mind. And I'm so glad you gave me another opportunity.
And get off my lawn. That's all I want. Get off my lawn.
See, now you're going too far.
I just want people off my lawn.
Yeah, I get it.
So,
I'm well aware.
off my lawn.
I'm well aware of the scenario.
And with that story, I believe we are at the end of this journey. The hero's journey, Joseph Campbell. That's basically the start of this video. This I would honestly say this show was the hero's journey.
Sure.
The problem though, it went too long, and what winds up happening is we lived long enough to become the villain.
I don't like you.
We want to really, really thank everybody that stopped by to listen to the live show. We humbly suggest that those of you that are listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever that's not on this live stream, you're missing out for real. You have a chance to shape the conversation. You have a chance to get, to see all of the expressions and all of that shit. Thank you, Jonathan. All of that shit that we do that you can't see because it's just audio, you can actually see it here if you go subscribe on YouTube to the Black Culture Geeks with a Z YouTube channel. We are here every Saturday at 11-ish a.m. Eastern time. Come hang out, talk your shit, listen to us talk shit. We are in effect. Thank you, Biddy. We are in effect. The replacement. They took your Saturday morning cartoons away. We are here.
And they shouldn't have. You deserve those.
You deserve those, but that's fine. We'll here. We'll be Fraggle Rock. We'll be Looney Tunes. We'll be the X-Men. We'll be all of that. So for my man SPJ, I am Tombstone, the Dead Man, and for the greater multi-world entertainment family, yes, and that does include Chris
John Boyega.
And John Boyega. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And also Kat Dennings. We are out.